everyone, welcome live to 3Y TV for tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series. Tonight, we have some action for you at Daytona. It is the Lynchburg Duels trying to set the field for next week's Simbox 250 here at Daytona. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight is Drew Eisenman for this event that we have for you. It will be two 40-lap duels that set the field. The front row will be set based off their qualifying time. The rest of the field will put their times in, and their qualifying positions will be set by the two duels that we have here tonight. We do have 30 drivers locked into tonight's race, and you will see those drivers. They'll be noted by having an L by their name in the ticker here in just a moment. But Drew, Daytona, we always see lots of action here. What do you expect to see here tonight?
Well, I'm expecting a lot of close racing, probably a considerable amount of aggression, since this, technically is a non-points race, right? We're just setting the grid for the 250 coming up next week. So I'm expecting a lot of aggression, people trying to maximize their starting position for next week, and just some fantastic racing.
Absolutely. And remember, we do have 30 drivers already locked into next week's Simbox 250 here at Daytona. However, for all the other drivers, they're trying to get into the last 10 positions. 30 drivers automatically qualified, 10 spots left. We have a lot of cars out there here tonight, and there are only 10 spots on the line, so it will be pretty interesting to find out who will make it. As look at the number 48 machine there, splitting the gap 3 wide up the middle. But I'll tell you what, Drew, I kind of like you. I'm expecting to see a lot here tonight in the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series. Of course, this is 3Y TV's first event with the National Sim Racing Association, so great to have them on board for this partnership. It's going to be a very long season, 26 races in all, including tonight's event. There's also another special event in the season, but it goes all the way into 2021. So it's going to be a long season, Drew, and I'm glad that you're here alongside me. And we'll have to see if Mitchell Adams can repeat as series champion.
Yeah, Peter, I'm definitely anticipating great things from Mitchell Adams, and I think it's really interesting with the kind of locked guys that are locked in this field, and how many quick guys, Andrew Himmelman in fourth and Mitchell Snare in fifth in practice. It seems like some of these guys that aren't locked in the field are really quick in practice. That's going to make those guys that are more marginal towards the back of the practice times. I think that would make me a little nervous if I was one of those drivers.
Absolutely. It is going to be interesting to see how everything plays out here tonight. Like I mentioned, two 40-lap duels. And then after the 40 laps, they're actually going to have a little bit of a fun race with all of the drivers to get out there on the racetrack at the same time and really just enjoy themselves. As you see a couple of cars on pit road, but we do have a couple of cars out there, Drew, trying to get a couple of extra laps in to see if they can find that little bit of speed to see if they can get on the front row, because the front row is locked. The drivers who qualify first and second will roll off next week's Simbox 250 on the front row. So there's a lot to play for even in the qualifying session.
Yeah, never a bad idea to try to start from the front and really control these races, especially at a place like Daytona, where the leaders can really determine their own fate, which no other drivers can say in the field, right? Like if you're first and second, maybe teammates or something, you can really control the race, as we've seen teams do so successfully in the past.
Absolutely. Well, you can see we have jumped over into the qualifying session. Watch on the left-hand side of your screen as times come up on the board for their 2 laps that they get here at Daytona for their qualifying, because the two drivers who end up on the very top will start on the front row of the Simbox 250, but of course everyone else, they're going to have to find out where they qualify for next week's race with the Lynchburg Duels. Great to have Lynchburg t-shirt companies on board with this race here tonight. You see them up there in the top left-hand corner of your screen, as well as the sponsors tick by. Multiple sponsors here for the National Sim Racing Association, so great to have them all on board this season. But we're actually watching the number 62 machine, Colin Ullery, out there on the racetrack right now. There's a whole plethora of drivers out there, including this man right there, Andrew Himmelman, very, very quick in that practice session in that number 4 machine. And Drew, let's see if we can go on board with this machine and see if you can take us for a lap around Daytona International Speedway.
Absolutely, coming through that tri-oval. Interesting that he's starting his first flying lap on the bottom. I would expect him to really try to ride that banking on the high side. Looks like he is going to be coasting on the bottom, trying to carry that or like shorten that lap as much as possible. Interesting strategy by Andrew. I would definitely expect these guys to be straddling those stripes on the outside line on their first lap, but he is going for a gamble, trying to think that he can get a better lap on this inside lane. Going down the backstretch, obviously here at Daytona, we are going to be going flat out, no lifting the whole time in a single car run. And he has that number 4 truck just slammed against that yellow line, shortening that distance. Coming out of turn 4, he's coming to take that white flag, which will be his second of 2-time laps, which definitely is going to be that money lap. I expect this first lap is going to be pretty quick here, since he did stay on that low line, but I just... we'll see. Maybe the unexpected will happen from my perspective, and he will be flying on the second lap, but he's marginally quicker going into turn 3. He was 170 on lap 1. He was going 172 into turn 1 on lap 2. Didn't lose too much through 1 and 2, and now coming back down on the backstretch. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see where this 4 truck pans out.
Meanwhile, we have a couple of other drivers, including your reigning series champion right there, Mitchell Adams in the number 49 machine. He's currently 33rd on the timing charts, but trying to pick up a little bit of time on lap number 2. We'll have to see exactly what he can do as he comes to the start-finish line in that number 49 machine. There he goes. And where does he fall in the field? He jumps up into the top 5. JT Poole in the number 26 machine, though, currently atop the board, but as I say that, the number 77 machine jumps to the top. Right there, that man right there, Doug Neal, got Simbox plastered all over that race truck. Andrew, could we see the Simbox truck lead the field next week in the Simbox 250?
Certainly would be appropriate for Doug Neal to lead them to the green flag. Interesting that I was just talking about the 4 truck and him taking the low line, and I definitely think the 49 and Mitchell Adams was taking that high line, and they ended up 2 1,000ths away from each other. So maybe that doesn't matter as much in these trucks as we're seeing, but it's some close times up front, with the exception of Doug Neal, which, I mean, by Daytona standards is quite a ways out in front of that second place car of Jeff Price.
Yeah, that number 77 machine must be feeling pretty good about his lap time, as a lot of the field has already turned in their qualifying lap time, and Jeff Price in the number 14 machine currently alongside him on the front row, trying to see if we got any cars on the racetrack. We do. We have Michael Mooney, it appears. There he is in the number 88 machine on the racetrack right now. We also see the number 21 of Justin Hutchison on the racetrack. Matt Vander Kooi as well, just now pulling off in that number 60 machine. So we still have a couple drivers out there on the racetrack right now. Drew, here is Joshua Sobel in the number 30 machine. But as of right now, it seems like a lot of these cars out there on the racetrack, they're kind of pulling off.
Yeah, I know that I've definitely seen guys in the past. I'm one that I try to, like, as soon as practice is over, especially at more challenging tracks, I definitely try to get out there, and while I'm kind of still in my groove, still in my rhythm, I try to go out there and lay as fast as laps as possible, where the markers are fresh in my head. Obviously, Daytona, not as applicable, but I definitely know guys in the past have liked to be the ones that kind of wait for a while and lay those laps down late, but that's not going to happen. It's qualifying, just the time expired, and we got Doug Neal on pole.
Yeah, Doug Neal will gain the Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award for the Simbox 250. Same time, same place, right here on 3Wide TV 1 week from now. So huge shout out to the Simbox truck taking the pole for that event. Very, very cool to see that. And Drew, we got a quick peek there of the 737 there landing on the Daytona Airport, just on the backstretch of Daytona International Speedway. Of course, this racetrack dubbed the World Center of Racing. It should be a fantastic show here in just a little bit, as the field just now starting to line up. Looks like JT Poole in that number 26 machine will be starting on the pole for this one there, Drew. And that Simbox number 26 machine looks a little reminiscent of one of the other cars that we have seen out there on the racetrack at times. A little bit reminiscent of a Ricky Bobby scheme there, Drew.
Yeah, hopefully Tom Cruise and his voodoo magic stay away from that 26 truck, but that's a really cool looking scheme. I love when guys can kind of incorporate really famous schemes from the past and then apply it to a real life sponsor like Simbox. That is a great looking number 26 truck.
Well, as the field is now set up here for these heat races, unfortunately the grid graphic is not exactly perfect and set up for heat races, so we're just gonna have to go through this starting lineup a little bit the old-fashioned way, because the number 26 machine of JT Poole will start on the pole. To his outside, the number 23 of Travis White. There he is. Starting on row number 2 on the inside will be the number 4 machine of Andrew Himmelman. To his outside, your reigning champion, Mitchell Adams, right there. And the number 49 machine, Joshua Sobel, in the number 30 will be rolling off from P5. Ben Adams in 6th. Jordan Schepler in the number 13 machine will be rolling off from 7th. Chris Darling in the number 47 machine rolling off from the outside of row number 4. TJ Buck on the inside of row number 5, and rounding out your top 10, the number 54 there of Randy Post.
And just outside of that top 10 will be Zach Howell in 11th position in that 37 truck, followed by Doug Milner in that number 6 truck starting in 12th. Mitchell Snare starting in 13th, followed by Jacob Shoffett starting in 14th. Joey Doucette will be on the inside of that next line in 15th, followed by Adam Leichty. Stan Hausman will be starting P17, and on his outside will be Barry Knapp. Robert Clavey Jr. will be starting P19, and on his outside will be Peter Serto.
Starting in the 21st position, Gerald Baker the third. 22nd on the outside of row number 11, the number 33 of Jeff Johnson Jr. Chip Hansen rolling off 23rd. 24th, the number 8 of TJ Floyd. Robert Dudley rounds out your 25-car field for this race. Nick Kessler in the number 3 machine, the one driver who has not made it to this race just yet, but we're going to go green here shortly, Drew. The pace car lights are off. 40 laps around this racetrack for heat number 1, the first of the 2 Lynchburg Duels. And Drew, I'm really excited to see these cars cranked up this time next lap.
Absolutely. The trucks always manage to put on a fantastic show at these restrictor plate tracks, and there's no better place to be racing than Daytona. And here we go. Pace car is off.
Green flag, green flag.
Pace car is off. The green flag is in the flagman's hand. We're underway here at Daytona. JT Poole in that number 26 machine, already off to a good start in that Wonder Bread Simbox machine. Headed off into turn number 1 here. He's already got clear of that outside groove, and look at the number 4 machine, Andrew Himmelman right there, Drew. He's kind of using that low line to stay right in line behind JT Poole, trying to clear the number 23 of Travis White.
Absolutely. And we see that outside line already getting a little bit of momentum. Kind of a little unexpected on the first lap. Normally that inside groove, just because the trucks are accelerating and it's the shortest way around, is normally really prevails on this first lap. But we're seeing that 23 truck really challenge JT Poole on that outside.
Yeah, and here we go. Coming to the start-finish line for lap number 1. Who will lead the first lap here at Daytona? Will it be JT Poole? Yes, it will. 1 lap in the books here in the 2020-2021 NSRA Simbox Truck Series as they dive off into turn number 1 once again. JT Poole, this is almost looking like it did last lap with that number 26 machine, pulling out just a little bit in front of that number 4 of Andrew Himmelman as the field flashes by here at Daytona International Speedway. Great to see this green flag here at Daytona with 39 laps to go in the first heat. I'm sure all these drivers glad to have that first lap in the rear. Green flag here, Drew.
Yeah, and it's been pretty cordial so far. I haven't seen much, if any, 3-ride racing. It's 2x2 throughout most of the field, and that inside line really starting to gain some momentum compared to the outside. And I don't see a lot of teammates lined up. I mean, this is the duel, so a lot of these guys are going to be split up. But I was kind of expecting the 4 and 5 truck to be teamed up here in these first few laps and try to control that race. But we have that 4 truck of Andrew Himmelman on the inside and P2, and that 5 of Ben Adams kind of stuck on the outside, really nowhere to go for him.
Yeah, and folks, if you're watching this, look at the left-hand side of your screen. You'll see a couple drivers with L right at the end of the name. That means that the driver is automatically locked into next week's Simbox 250. So no matter where they finish in tonight's Lynchburg Duels, that driver will be on the racetrack next week. However, if you're drivers like Andrew Himmelman in that number 4 machine, no L next to his name in that number 4 truck. So he is having to race his way in. There are 10 spots up for grabs for these drivers without a letter L by their name. And Himmelman wants to finish, of course, very high up here tonight to try and grab that, as the field here continuing to flash by. So far green as the number 30 there, Joshua Sobel, just washed up the racetrack just a little bit. But Drew, like you said, these drivers definitely staying cordial here in the early going.
It's one of those old sayings in racings: you can't win the race on lap 1, but you sure can lose in it. It seems like these guys are really taking that to heart. They're not going single file Dale Jr. style on the outside lane, but they're definitely not forcing issues when they don't need to be forced. I think they're trying to wait for this to get closer to the end, and especially those guys that aren't locked in, I expect some aggressive moves from those drivers late in the race.
I'll tell you what, Drew, I've been watching a lot of these cars go by, watching all these fresh paint schemes on these cars, and I gotta say, Mitchell Snare back there in the number 43 machine kind of has that Adam Petty throwback look to it. Great to see that retro paint scheme, very, very identifiable out there on the racetrack. Also, one of the drivers sporting Simbox on the hood. Of course, Simbox, the series sponsor this year. Great to have them on board all season long here in the NSRA Truck Series. But Drew, man, side by side pretty much all the way through, but JT Poole out front in that number 26 machine. He's starting to get a little bit of a challenge here from Travis White in the number 23.
Absolutely, that outside lane picking up a little bit of momentum. I haven't seen a lot of change in organization or numbers of trucks in each line, but I think that outside's really starting to carry some momentum, especially towards the end of that back straight, but it's just not quite enough to get Travis White in that 23 truck up into the lead, but it's not for lack of trying, that's for sure. You got maybe a little 3 wide going on out back. Not quite. They pull it back into 2 wide, but yeah, I know it definitely seems like that outside lane is not content with just kind of being the second line. They're trying to get up there and mix it up and take some laps away from that 26 truck.
And Drew, I'm wondering if possibly that number 23 machine out there on the outside just needs to wait for the tires to wear off. I know we don't often talk about tires here at Daytona International Speedway, with it being a super speedway and pretty much being wide open, but the tires do wear, the cars do tend to change, especially here at Daytona, more so here than at Talladega. And I'm wondering if possibly as the run goes on, that outside groove might start to come in a little bit as the drivers on the inside have to crank the wheel just that much more.
Absolutely, and unlike Talladega where you don't have the wheel turned in quite as much, Daytona, you can get some tire wear even with these trucks and even with this newer version of the track. I still think it could come into play, and I definitely know that outside lane would be kind of tighter on that inside line if this were lap 30 instead of lap 7, right? They could be a little more aggressive, but there's just not a lot of point in it right now, right? Like they know that it's just getting yourself to a good position towards the last 10, 15 laps of the race where you can really race with these guys, because all you can do now is screw up your race. You can't really assure a win at this point.
Absolutely. Keeping an eye on that number 5 machine, simracingshirts.com on the hood. He's trying to get to the number 4 machine of Andrew Himmelman. You can see those two cars, obviously teammates, both with Sim Racing shirts on them. Of course, the number 5 is driven by Ben Adams. You see him right there. He's locked into the show next week in the Simbox 250. Right underneath him, though, that's the number 84 of TJ Buck. He's one of those drivers, Drew, not locked into the show, just like the number 4 of Himmelman that we mentioned earlier. And we saw him last week. They actually had a little bit of a preseason event at the Texas Motor Speedway, and that man right there in the number 84 machine came home with that win with that Captain Crunch scheme. So I'm expecting pretty big things out of him this season.
I know last week we didn't really know who was locked in and who wasn't. We got a guy a little bit on the apron that can really upset those trucks, especially through the tri-oval. But I'm kind of shocked to see that TJ Buck's not locked in, but I definitely expect good things from him this season. And you definitely want to start your season off in the right way when you've shown the pace that he's shown. And he's in a good position now, and hopefully he can stay up there. As again, we're just seeing this low line really, really show its speed early on. As it doesn't really look like JT Poole has any major threat from that 23 truck on the outside.
Although you did see Mitchell Adams give that number 23 machine a shot coming out of turn number 2. You can see it from high atop in the blimp camera. And definitely Mitchell Adams trying to push that number 23 machine to the front. You can see he actually got a little bit of gap back to that number 5 machine of Ben Adams. You saw Adams there closing in on the back bumper of the number 49 coming out of turn number 4, but not quite able to get back up to the back bumper of the number 49 machine just yet.
And Peter, you'll probably know this better than I. It's been a while since I've raced these trucks at Daytona. With how aggressive that 49 is pushing that 23 truck, do you think he could face a little overheating problems? Because he was tucked up there for quite a while, and he's really been on the bumper of Travis White in that 23 truck. I don't know. It's kind of early to be getting those temps up. It's aggressive and it's working, but it might not be the best idea this early in the race.
Yeah, definitely it does differ based on whatever car you're driving. The Cup cars behave differently than the trucks, but you always got to think about a little bit of overheating. Here we go a little bit further back in the pack as the number 43 machine throws some sparks. We're going to get a little bit 3-wide action here on 3-wide TV. Further back in the pack, we're watching the number 12 machine of Gerald Baker, the third 3-wide in the middle right now, trying to go up through the middle to close up to the back bumper of the number 8 machine, TJ Floyd, right there in front of him. Looks like they're going to sort that out and go back to 2 wide, as he's still stuck out there on the outside. But a little bit of 3-wide action here. And Drew, maybe these drivers starting to get a little bit antsy. I know there's still 30 laps to go, but they've ridden for 10 laps pretty much double file with not a lot of drivers making up positions. I've been looking at the live timing and scoring. Not a lot of positions gained here by a lot of the field here in the early going, but meanwhile up at the front, a position has been gained because new race leader, that man right there, the number 23 machine, Travis White, made a move and got the race lead.
He pretty much slammed the door on JT Poole while we were focused on those guys in the back. He really wanted that lead, and he took it. It looked like JT was looking about kind of crossing him back over and trying to carry that momentum up to the high side, but he decided to tuck it back in behind Travis. That was a really aggressive move, but he wants to be up on that bottom line, and that really, really took a lot of momentum out of that top groove. And I think that 49 of Mitchell Adams, last year's champion, now he's got that clean air in front of him. He's going to be able to dictate the pace of that outside line. But is that 5 truck going to be as good of a pusher as he was to Travis White?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have some people in the chat. Want to give a huge shout out to a lot of the Himmelmans. We got Tana Himmelman as well as Ethan Himmelman. And Ethan's asking what place do they have to finish to lock their position, Andrew in particular. Well, really, you want to finish ahead of the other drivers that don't have L in their name. You want to finish in the top 5 of the drivers without a letter L by their name. So currently, Andrew would be in that position. He is nearly rivaled there by Joshua Sobel in the number 30 machine. But you really just want to beat the other drivers without an L. And currently, Andrew is in a position to do so. We also got Jason Bean in the chat saying, hello all, hope you're having a good evening. Mitchell Adams is trying to put on an exciting race here for you all. Indeed you are. So far, so good. And that number 49 machine up there in the 3rd position. Like you said, Drew, trying to now use that outside line, trying to pull level with the 26 and the 23. Travis White leading the way in that Chevrolet Silverado. And the outside line, similarly, being led by the Silverado there of the number 49 machine.
Yeah, it looked like for a lap they had kind of the outside line in that 49 truck had kind of slowed down their backwards progression through the field, but looks like they just lost quite a bit, maybe 2 or 3 truck lengths through 1 and 2. It just doesn't look like they're all quite together in the same way that they were when Travis White took the lead in that bottom line. Speaking of Andrew Himmelman, he's looking like he's put himself in a really good position. I just don't think that outside line right now on these relatively fresh tires as we're on now coming to start lap 15, I think that bottom line is still definitely the preferred line. But as I say that 49 truck looks like he's making me a liar, and he's getting all the way up to close to that second place, or at least that second truck in line in that 26 truck.
Drew, one thing we're going to have to start talking about pretty soon is the possibility of having green flag pit stops here in the National Sim Racing Association series. We do run 60% fuel tanks, so they don't have a full fuel tank like most other series do, and that definitely lends itself to a lot more green flag pit stops, and we might see one here coming up soon, as it does look like Mitchell Adams there in the number 49 machine. He got the closest I had seen anyone to get around that number 23 machine recently. He pulled level with him there going off into turn number 3, but you can see still that low line has quite an advantage here as, the number 5 machine of Adams there ducking underneath Mitchell Adams there. So got to make sure we know Mitchell Adams and Ben Adams there in the 49 and the 5. So a couple of Adamses up there on that high group trying to pull level with the cars in front of them. But Drew, they lost a little bit of ground as we're starting to see that high line lose trucks. It's down to only 6.
That's really going to hurt the momentum, as I thought they were going to be looking to make it 3 wide right there. But yeah, you definitely, it seems like at Daytona, you really want a majority on the outside line if you're going to make it work. But I think I just need to keep saying that it looks like the outside line's not going to be able to do anything, because every time I say that, they keep pulling it back up, as here comes the 49 with a good run again, looking to get to the outside of that 26 truck, a JT Poole. Right, every time I've said that, it's been the opposite. But I have noticed quite a bit of movement with these trucks, especially through the corners relative to each other. I wonder how low that steering ratio is, because I'm seeing quite a bit of little wobbling going on through these corners. If it looks like, like these guys, I think they turn a little too much, so then they kind of seesaw back on that wheel a little bit, and that can lead to some really dangerous situations.
Yeah, I've actually seen the number 13 machine right here of Jordan Shepler go below that yellow line a couple times actually here in the early going. I know that's when you talk about that steering ratio, Drew, that's kind of a driver preference. Some drivers like a little bit twitchier race car, other drivers don't. And then sometimes you just can't see through the car in front of you. You can't see where that yellow line is if you're tucked up underneath them. Oh no, Chris Darling in the number 37 machine has gone around. There he is going backwards. He's going to bring it to a halt. We're going to see if we can see what happened there on the 3-wide TV replay. Going down the stretch here. Oh, man, got hooked by one of the other cars there. Drew couldn't quite see who that is, but good job there by Chris Darling to get it woed up. Don't think there's any damage to that car, but Drew, he's going to lose a lot of time.
A quick correction, that is actually Zach Howell, who is a truck that is locked in that 37 truck. Yeah. It looks like he got turned by the 54, which is Randy Post. Yeah, it's kind of looked like definitely Randy could have given him a little bit more room there, but the 37 definitely chopped across his nose. Unfortunate for that 37 truck that there's not a caution, but I'm sure the rest of these guys are pretty happy that there wasn't, so they'll get bunched back up.
Yeah, my apologies. Chris Darling's in the 47, not the 37 here tonight. Chris Darling actually is one of those drivers. There he is. He's actually one of the big losers out of that one, Drew. A couple cars, they kind of spread out when that happened, and a couple cars in danger of losing the draft. Drivers like, we do have drivers on pit road. This is Robert Dudley, Joey Doucette on pit road. They're all now just coming off pit road, so maybe we're starting to see those green flag pit stops that we alluded to a little bit. Here comes the rest of the field pretty much coming down pit road, including some of your leaders. Oh, contact there. The number 5 of Ben Adams making contact with the 00 machine, the 4 getting sideways. Drew, this is all chaos on pit road.
Yeah, our leader, Travis White, decided to take it down pit road, and honestly, he didn't have a lot of guys that were in his immediate vicinity come with him. If he honestly has a good pit stop, that might really hurt him. And that little group that came down pit road might be a little spread out. Yeah, it doesn't look like he really has a car within a couple seconds of him. That might really cost him. Hopefully he can come back out in this big pack, but that's never what you want to see as a leader, is when you come down pit road and nobody around you does.
So cars now headed back out onto the track after making their service.
Oh, coming onto pit road. Oh, couple, that's messy.
Who is it? Who might have
double
spun?
zero? They didn't go all the way around, but they were sideways. That might be a black flag for unsafe pit entry.
So we'll have to see how that all sorts out here. Meanwhile, Chris Darling, oh, no, number 12 machine, Gerald Baker III, he overshot his pit box. And Drew, we mentioned the possibility of having some green flag pit stops. And the one thing you don't want to do under those green flag pit stops is make a mistake. And we've seen that quite a bit here under this green flag pit stop cycle, as this group of cars now starting to roll back out there onto the circuit. And we're going to have to see how this all plays out. I'm keeping an eye especially on the number 26 machine of JT Poole, because he was one of those drivers who was in that lead pack. Right there he is, and you can see he's already going around some of the slower cars still coming off pit road. I think that number 26 machine will be scored as your race leader when this all cycles through.
Yeah, and it definitely didn't hurt that 23 truck. On a little aside, that 00, not only, I mean, it looks like there was a little bit of contact between he and the 5 of Ben Adams, and then he missed his pit box. So he had to come back down pit road the following lap. And that is, luckily he's locked in, but that is going to be absolutely brutal for his chances to further compete up front in this pack.
You're right on board with Chris Darling. He was at one point the race leader, but he wasn't up to speed. And just like that, he got gobbled up very, very quickly. And your new race leader is the number 23 machine, once again, of Travis White. Adam Lichty in the number 46 machine also up there. I know we got some people in the chat trying to figure out where their driver is going to cycle on through. And Drew, probably the biggest loser in this whole thing is the number 4 machine right there of Andrew Himmelman. Remember, he was up near the front. He's now being scored down in the 14th position behind quite a few drivers without the letter L by their name. So this number 4 machine with 19 laps to go, he's going to have to pick it up a little bit, see if he can close them down. We know he's got a lot of speed in that race truck here tonight.
He's right on the edge. I believe it's going to be Stan Houseman, Mitchell Snare, and Andrew Himmelman that are all kind of going to be right on that edge. I know they have a few seconds between Houseman and that 39 and then that 43 of Snare, who's directly behind that 4 truck of Andrew Himmelman. But that's really close. Nick Kessler, unfortunately, didn't start, so that's one non-locked-in truck. So then it's going to be those bottom 4, which is TJ Floyd, who is far down, Gerald Baker, Randy Yeah, it looks like Snare is right above that cutoff. So Himmelman only one spot above that kind of danger zone. So it was not a great round of pit stops. I know he was in that big group that came down that had that drama where there were 2 trucks sideways. Some guys looked like they got into the inside pit wall. There was all sorts of drama in that group, and he definitely was a loser, unfortunately, for his stress levels, at least at this point in the race.
The biggest gainer, though, in that pit cycle, that man right there who's getting a charge to the front from the number 84 of TJ Buck. That's Chris Darling in that number 47 machine. I said a couple laps ago he sent spinning. I misnumbered that machine because Chris Darling, he was a ways back, Drew. I kind of said he had lost because of that spin that we saw out of the number 37 machine, but he had a spectacular pit stop, and now he's pretty much up at the front, but things continuing to cycle as TJ Buck has now got the 84 to the front. Give the Captain Crunch machine the front right now.
Really, as kind of amicable as everyone was racing early on, it doesn't seem like anybody is willing to be second at this point. It was really close to getting into that wall. What truck was that? That gray and blue? See if my mouse can keep up. Robert Clavey looked like he might have gotten the wall out of turn 4, but looks like he's going to be able to recover just fine as long as he doesn't lose the draft. And yeah, actually, we saw quite a bit of change of position in that last lap, and then all of a sudden they're darn near back to single file through and through, with that 46 truck just being the sole one on the outside line of this lead pack. And then, yeah, we've seen what was that huge pack before, now is just one front pack and then several smaller ones that includes quite a few non-locked-in trucks of Stan Houseman, Mitchell Snare, and Andrew Himmelman. And I think those guys, I definitely need to double check, but I think they're going to be fighting within that second pack for that last position to be in that 250. So we could see some real drama between these three trucks towards the end of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and unfortunately, because they've lost that main draft, they're losing time to the front cars. I mean, oh, we got a problem though.
Caution,
The
yellow
number
flag.
78 machine, I saw him turn up into the outside wall. Let's see if we can catch that one here on a replay just a little bit ago. Who was that who got turned up into the outside wall? Because, Drew, that is a tough break for some of the cars that we have back there. I think that happened around Joey Doucette. Now let's see if we can see this right here. There he is, has the number 87 to his outside. They make a little bit of contact, and both the 87 and Doucette right there in that machine, both having a little bit of a ride. We'll see if we can get it on board with the number 87 machine as we go back live here. And you can see that and watch the 87. Oh, man, that was the 73 machine, I believe, who got involved in that heavy into the inside wall. And that's going to do it for that number 87 machine, Drew. He has a lot of damage on that race car. Don't think he's going to be able to get all that damage repaired.
Yeah, it's. I mean, luckily that 87 truck has an L behind his last name, indicating that he is in fact locked in. However, Joey Doucette, who it looks like has some pretty decent damage in that number 6, or rather, says 61, 78 truck, and Robert Clavey in the truck in front of him in the 73. They are both not locked in, and they both have quite a bit of damage, unfortunately. So we will see how that will impact their chances of making the 250, sponsored by Simbox. So that could be some drama for those guys. And this, as we were just talking about, the field had kind of spread out a little bit with the exception of that kind of fairly large front main pack. But that's going to bring all these guys right back in it. And I doubt that we see another green flag pit stop. So it's probably going to stay close here to the end.
Yeah, I was actually looking to see if any of these drivers come down pit road. Looks like we have a couple in the back half of the field, but for the most part, your field staying out here. So presumably that is it for any pit stops for the rest of this first of the 2 Lynchburg duels here at Daytona. Both of them 40-lap events, and that man right there, your current race leader there, TJ Buck, Drew. Great job by TJ Buck in that number 84 Captain Crunch machine. I mean, we didn't really talk about him before we had that green flag pit stops, but here he is up at the front, sporting that bright yellow and red scheme with a little bit of yellow wheels on it. Pretty cool looking scheme.
Yeah, I'm definitely a sucker for those bright schemes that really stand out. It is a good looking paint job. Speaking of, I saw that Chris Darling posted his team's schemes today, and those are also some good looking schemes on that Mashburn Enterprise Toyota.
Yeah, there he is, Mashburn Enterprise on the side, and of course now Chris Darling sitting up inside the top 3. But Drew, one thing that this is really going to shake up is that battle for really the last transfer position into next week's Simbox 250. There's Andrew Himmelman in the number 4 machine, but right in front of him, Mitchell Snare in the number 43. He doesn't have an L beside his name. Stan Hausman there in the number 39. In front of him doesn't have an L beside his name. So going to be interesting to see how everything pans out. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen just where your driver is here as we continue to work our way towards the conclusion of the first of the 2 Lynchburg T-shirt duels. And I'll tell you what, Drew, it's been a fantastic racing here.
Yeah, some really, really good side-by-side action with quite a bit of amicable interaction between drivers. There was some aggressive racing for the lead, but I didn't think there was anything that was anywhere near dangerous or anything. It was just some good aggressive driving from, it looks like, guys that really trust each other when they're dicing it up like this, which always puts on fantastic racing when you know the guy around you isn't going to do something that you're not anticipating when you guys are racing aggressively. That always means you can kind of take it to that next level with them, not knowing that they're not just going to all of a sudden kind of not hold their line through the corner or something like that, and you can really get those really fun and entertaining races.
Absolutely. Got to give a huge shout out to some of the people that we have in the chat. Tana Himmelman still saying Drew needs a good finish. Nervous Mama here. Maurer Racing rooting on the number 23 machine. Let's Go Snuff Racing machine of Travis White. Currently up there inside the top 5. And Tristan Buck rooting on your current race leader, the number 84 machine. But we are working the first caution here in tonight's Lynchburg Duel race number 1. Got to give them a huge shout out. And thank you for joining us here on 3 Wide TV. It's great to be a part of the NSRA for the 2020-2021 Simbox Truck Series. And Drew, I know you and we've looked at the schedule. A lot of big races going to be coming here down the line. I mean, we're going to pretty much every single big NASCAR track throughout the season. I'm very much looking forward to what this season has on offer. But the pace car, headed down pit road. Green flag going to be back in the air for the number 84 of TJ Buck. He brings him down a little bit slow. Getting a little bit of help from that number 47 machine there of Chris Darling. Getting a good jump there on that restart. That outside line starting to get a little bit jumpy. There's the number 23 machine who poked his nose out. The number 13 of Scheffler leads the outside line as we get these trucks wound back up to 180 miles an hour here at Daytona.
Absolutely, and one thing I didn't take note of those guys involved in that most recent cautioning, according to the info of this session, and sometimes that doesn't always accurately depict the settings, but there's no limit on fast repairs, so all of those guys should be perfectly fine, and based on what I'm seeing on my monitor, it looks like there's no damage on these guys, so that might have been an unfortunate situation, but as long as they kept those trucks running, got into pit lane, they should be perfectly good to go as that 84 of TJ Buck continues to control this race, but it looks like that 13 is looking to challenge him here on that outside.
Yeah, that number 13 machine of Scheffler pretty much alongside as they go off into turn number 1, enter the Boeing 737 right there out of turn number 2. But the number 47 there, Chris Darling, he's just biding his time, impressed with his ability to come down pit road and gain so much time. Now is he in a position to win the first of the 2 Lynchburg duels as the 13 gets a huge shot by the number 23 machine. They almost bumped there on entry into turn number 3, Drew, and the league has outlawed bump drafting in the corners. They say you can't do that. It leads to too many accidents, and possibly that's one of the reasons why we've pretty much been clean and green for the whole race tonight.
Absolutely. I know that in my conversations with the league admins, that bump drafting, it's not necessarily an instant penalty, but if the officials that are watching this race, they think it's going a little too far, or they think it's irresponsible, I do expect to see penalties. So I agree. I think that's really led to guys getting right up on the rear bumper during on the straightaways and really pushing them and transferring that momentum, but then having to back off a little bit through those corners, and I think that's why we're seeing that high line really, really excel. Here is, will that 13 clear the 84? It's so close. Not quite there, but he's going to be hung in the middle lane now as that 23 of Travis White looking to take the front of that outside lane for himself, and that's not going to be great for that 13 truck if nobody goes with him, but if somebody does, and that's going to hang that 23 truck out. These type of gambles, they can really put you in a fantastic position late in this race, but you don't know when you're making this move, is this the right thing to do or not? You just got to go with that momentum and hope it works out, and it kind of seems like it's actually not really hurting either one of them more than the other, but it is giving that inside line a really, really good run, as it looks like we had a truck in the back get really close to the wall, but he managed to sort it out. But let's see, and now that 23 truck looks like he's hung on the outside line, so that move is not going to pay off.
Yeah, I was going to say, the number 46 machine there of Lichty, he was trying to figure out where to go in that number 46 machine, but he decided to go with the number 13 machine. But now look at Chris Darling in the number 47. He's starting to poke his nose out to the high line as that high line starts to get a run coming out of the corner. Once again, a little bit of 3 wide there towards the back of the pack. Who is that? Is that the number 4 machine? Andrew Himmelman possibly stuck in the middle in that race car. And remember, Drew, he's one of those drivers who has to work his way up towards the front of the field. He's doing so here. Had a very fast truck at the start of this race. Got shuffled back under those green flag pit stops that we saw. He's one of those drivers without an L, trying to get his way in. Joshua Sobel there Right in front of him, another one of those drivers trying to race his way in. Currently, Adam Lichty in the number 46 machine in third, as Schepler in the number 13 machine draws level with the 84 machine. I was going to say Lichty right there in the 46. He's the highest placed driver without an L right now. Field starting to get a little bit antsy. The 73 is in the outside wall. Oh, the 4! And that is the number 4 machine of Himmelman right there, backwards on the racetrack.
Yellow flag.
Andrew, he did not want to see that. He's one of those drivers who is not locked into the show. We'll see that one here on the 3-wide TV replay. That is a tough break for this machine right here. We'll see it right here. He was in the top of 3 wide, the 00 there in the middle. And what happened here, Drew?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out myself. It was really hard to tell. I don't think there was any other contact with another truck. Oh no, there was with that I can't make out the number. That black and blue truck to his inside. And again, luckily, if my information screen is accurate, he's going to get a fast repair, and he's going to have to start at the end of the longest line just due to pitting right when that yellow came out, and pits were very likely closed. But he's still not out of this, and that is a key takeaway. That yeah, that was a really unfortunate situation, but it looks like he has that truck completely repaired, and he will be back in it. But that was quite a bit of drama, and that's never something you want to experience as a guy who's not locked into the race, right? That's got to be one of those deals where he was looking so good early, fell back a little bit, but he still looked like he was in a good position until guys in front of him decided to make it 3 wide, and then ultimately he paid the price. Now he's got a lot of work to do to make sure that he's in that Simbox 250 next week.
And you saw that wreck really lasted forever for this man right here, the number 87 machine of Chip Hansen, as he had to suffer through quite a lot of that. You see that machine right there for the second time here tonight. Drew, that 87 has damage, so he'll come down pit road and presumably get that fast repair. So tough break for some of the drivers trying to race their way in. Still TJ Buck up at the front. He's one of those drivers having to race his way in that number 84 machine. So far, so good for him. Now just 5 laps away from getting into next week's Simbox 250. The number 13 of Jordan Schepler sitting in second. Chris Darling in third. Adam Lichty, the second driver without a automatic qualification. He is not locked in that number 46 machine. He will have to try and get his way in. Meanwhile, we do have tonight's first Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. Goes to that man right there, Joey Doucette. He is getting himself back on the lead lap. Great to see that. He's one of the drivers who's trying to work his way into tonight's field. Just saw that Bud machine flashing by the pace car. So great to have Brookstone Animal Hospital on board supporting not only the series, but supporting your animals as well. If you're in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area, make sure you go check them out here. But Drew, we're going to have 4 laps to go this time by. Pace car lights are still on. We're going to have a shootout here at Daytona.
Absolutely. As cordial as everything has been so far, we're going to see how cordial it will continue to be. I expect everybody to be doing everything that they can do to try to get themselves in the lead of this race come that white flag. Yeah, it's I think it would be shocking if they weren't, right? Because there's just not going to be a lot of time left. That was speaking of Joey Doucette, who you mentioned, that was a lifesaver for him. He was caught a lap down, and it was looking pretty bleak for his chances to make that Simbox 250. But this gives him a whole new life as written in regards to this race, because he is going to be back out there. Unfortunately, looks like the 39 of Stan Houseman just fell a lap down. It didn't look like he was any majorly involved in that, but as another guy who's not locked in, I think that should make the rest of those guys that are kind of close, like Himmelman, TJ Floyd, Gerald Baker, should make them feel a little bit better. They have a little bit more of a buffer. They have 2 guys out of those 5 that are definitely going to be behind them, barring anything dramatic in these last few laps. But the lights are off on the pace car, and we are going to be going green very shortly, Peter.
Well, Drew, I was going to see if we could have a quick word with your current race leader, TJ Buck, but the pace car lights were extinguished, so we'll make sure he's in the right frame of mind here for this restart. Wanted to have a quick word with him and see what he's thinking. You know, he's going to have a shootout here at Daytona, Drew. 3 laps, and I know the 3 laps at Daytona always end up being the most erratic, the whole field trying to get every position they can get, but, for now, he's in the spot you want to be in.
And I got a question for you, just because I'm not seeing that information provided. Do you know if they have green-white checkers here?
I don't believe they'll have green-white checkers in the heat races, but we will have to. We will have to see. It is one of those questions of whether or not iRacing does green-white checkers in heat races or not. I honestly don't know the question to that, and I'm not part of heat races all too often, and that is how this is set up here tonight. But we will see the pace car turn left down pit road for hopefully going to be the final time here at Daytona. TJ Buck leads us back to green. Good start by that outside groove. The number 13 machine had it going pretty well off into the tri-oval, but doesn't have Lichty behind him to push him off into turn number 1 just yet. Oh, who was that, Drew? Got wicked loose from a little bit of a bump. They stay good back there, and now the 84 machine of Buck's going to have to play possibly a little bit of the blocking game.
Absolutely. I think that was the 32 of Peter Serto on the inside line. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, he got all sorts of loose. It looked like Chris Darling might have got a little bit of wheel spin on that restart as well, and I think that kind of didn't help TJ Buck, and kind of usually we see that bumping on these restarts, trying to transfer that momentum. But that bottom line, I was expecting it to be so much more powerful on these restarts, and it's really not. But we're not seeing a lot of 3 wide. It looks like that 46 definitely wants to make a move on that 13 truck. Maybe he's running a little hot. I would find that hard to believe, considering we just restarted this race, but that's definitely not helping that outside lane maintain that momentum with that 46 truck continuously peeking out like that.
2 more laps to go for TJ Buck. Can he hold on in that bright yellow and red machine? We will have to find out. Here he is leading them down the backstretch. It will be the white flag this time by in the first of the 2 Lynchburg duels here at Daytona. Look at the number 23 machine, Travis White. He's fallen back, Drew, now outside the top 10. What can that outside line do? Starting to get a little bit more formed up on that outside groove, led by the number 13 of Scheffler, getting a huge run coming. Oh, we got contact. The 32 is around. The yellow flag is out. Car's still spinning. And the whole field is in this one. 26 flipping, the 46 flipping back there. We're going to have to line up some replays for this one, Drew, because this was the big one here at Daytona. Let's see if we can walk through this one. So this is coming out of turn number 4, and I think we're going to have to the blimp cam to see exactly what happened. But you see the 84 get loose, the 47, the 13, the 46 right up there at the front, and then the 8 comes in, flips the 46 machine upside down. Let's see if we can get one more look at this one with possibly the gyro cam. Here we go on board with the number 46 machine into the outside. Well, look at the 26 machine doing an Austin Dillon impression back there as he slides on his roof. Drew, it's been a long time since I last saw an accident here at Daytona that was quite so dramatic as this one.
Yeah, it actually looks like there were almost 3 independent wrecks of each other, starting with that number 30 of Joshua Sobel. He almost got turned around, and then moving up towards the front, there was the 32 that got spun, and then Chris Darling in the 84 truck made a little bit of contact. Looked like there was a little bit of bump that wasn't quite flush, and that was the 3rd wreck that happened. That's crazy. Within maybe, I don't know, 10 seconds of each other, we had essentially 3 separate wrecks all coming into the tri-oval at Daytona.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. Let's go back and see what happened back here with the number 32 machine. He got spun, and that's a huge heartbreak there for Peter Serto in that machine, because he was one of those drivers who was trying to race his way in to this show, and, you know, huge disappointment. And we'll have to, of course, see how things line up when we do go back to green, because, folks, my question has been answered, or your question, Drew, I should say, of how of whether or not we get a green-white checker. You see on board just how many cars are smoking as you ride on board with Serto there. But boy, oh boy, that was a huge accident here at Daytona. And now back live, we have drivers coming down pit road. And there you can see the number 26 machine. Looks like the 4 of Himmelman also getting a chunk of that one as he's going to take a fast repair. Looks like he's going to be the first one down and away. So we're going to have to see how everything lines up. But I do know for now, the number 84 machine, TJ Buck, he's where you want to be, Drew. And of course, there's kind of two strategies to the Super Speedway races. You either want to be so far behind the wreck you can stop in time, or you want to be ahead of the wreck. And luckily for this number 84 machine, he was ahead of the wreck. Chris Darling, the 47 right behind him, looks like he's got away with no damage, but that really shuffles everything because now we have drivers like Chip Hansen, Randy Post, Robert Clavey up there inside the top 5. Some of the drivers we haven't seen inside the top 5 tonight.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, I think that what we just saw, there is no safe place at Daytona. You can be leading and I mean, TJ Buck saved the truck, but I mean, by all intents and purposes, he probably should have been involved in it. I mean, he made a heck of a save, like one of those Kyle Busch saves at Super Speedways where he was sliding coming off the banking and caught it. But I mean, I think it would have been just as easy for other drivers to have not been able to catch that and then to be in quite a bit of damage as a result. So as we've seen, I don't think there is a safe place, but if you're going to be anywhere, I would, especially on one of these restarts, I would want to be that 84 truck. I think he's in a really strong position dictating these restarts. I mean, he's been up front all night. If I had to put money on a driver, it would probably be that 84 of TJ Buck coming up on this restart.
And there you see the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner for this caution. It is the number 39 machine, working his way around the racetrack right now. Stan Hausman currently down in the 16th position in the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Ford. So great to see that. But back up at the front, the number 84 machine of TJ Buck. And let's see if we can possibly get a quick word with the number 84 machine. Nope. As I say that, the pace car lights have already turned off. So we'll let him sort things out, because I'm sure for this green-white checker, I believe we only get one attempt at a green-white checker in this series. Of course, that's one of the things we're going to have to learn with as the season goes on, but definitely the big one here at Daytona. Definitely a lot of people in the chat, saying, man, that was pretty crazy. Maurer Racing saying totally rad. Tristan Buck saying nice work. Looking good for Little Bear Racing, and of course rooting on the number 84 machine of TJ Buck. So pace car lights are off. We're going to have 2 laps here in just a brief moment. Andrew, why don't you lead us back to green flag?
Green flag.
Ruling 84, TJ Buck looked so strong all race, leading them back. Here we are, green flag. Great jump for that inside line in that 84 truck. Definitely not what Chris Darling wanted to see on that outside line, but he quickly filters down into third. Yeah, it looks like that inside line pretty formed up. The field a little bit more spread out than I was expecting. 84 truck looks to be in control, but I don't think Chris Darling is content with third, as he already peeked that nose out just a little bit. What is that 54 going to do when that 47 looks to make his move? Is he going to stay with that 84? Is he going to block Chris Darling? I think that could be a determining factor in who wins this race.
We got a couple of cars back there going below that yellow line, including your reigning series champion, Mitchell Adams. He is out of contention for winning the first of the 2 Lynchburg duels. So far, TJ Buck leads the way, coming to the white flag. Can we get to the white flag? We didn't last time by the skin of our teeth. That number 84 didn't get that white flag, but this time he will. One more lap to go at Daytona.
When we just got there, the 4 truck. Oh! There's quite a bit of a melee in the background, and those guys are definitely going to be racing back because there's no yellow on the white flag lap here, as we are still racing up front. The 84 truck still in the lead. It's basically nothing's changed since we cut away from them last. 54 truck of Randy Post in second, and here comes Chris Darling to the outside.
Chris Darling in that number 47 machine to the outside, but he ducks back in. No help from anyone behind him. Joshua Sobel in the number 30 machine. He doesn't have an L beside his name. He knows that in the spot he's in right now, he could lose it all if he tries to do something funky, but TJ Buck in the number 84 machine getting a little bit of punch. Here comes Chris Darling, 3 wide to the line. What happened to Buck? Did he run out of fuel in the number 84 machine? It looked like he lost power. Chris Darling comes across the line as the race winner of the first Lynchburg Duel here at Daytona. My oh my, Drew, I think what happened was the number 84 ran out of fuel. It seemed like he was really slow all of a sudden in that machine. We'll see this here on the replay.
I don't know if he ran out of fuel. Maybe he just got so loose that he had to get out of the throttle or something. Yeah, he had like a flame from that exhaust. So he was at the very least out of the throttle, maybe out of fuel. But Chris Darling did an ingenious move, one that we don't see utilized enough, that has worked before on that backstretch. He got a little bit too much of a run, led off through 3 and 4, and then got a huge run on the front straightaway and was able to snag that victory from honestly what has to be a heartbroken TJ Buck in that 84 truck. So strong all night and gets pipped right in the last part going into the tri-oval by Chris Darling, who snatches that victory.
So the number 47 machine of Chris Darling, there he is, somehow got his nose out front. What a finish here to start off the 2020-2021 NSRA Simbox Truck Series. And it is Chris Darling who will get to go to victory lane in the first of the duels. But just like that, we're going to jump over into duel number 2. So unfortunately couldn't get you all too many replays of that finish right there at the end. But Drew, very quickly, gotta see. Well, you know what? We'll see if we can get TJ Buck. Maybe once we're green flag racing and we've got the second duel underway. I'm really curious whether he ran out of fuel. Remember, we saw the pit stops around lap number 19 under green flag conditions, and thinking about when that car ran out of fuel, he might have been right on the edge of his window.
Yeah, I just would be, maybe being out front, he wasn't able to save any fuel at all. As we saw, he was out front for the vast majority of the second part of that race. I would just be surprised if he ran out of fuel and no other trucks seemed to have any problems. I know it definitely looked like he kind of got a bad bump coming into the tri-oval, and maybe he was just so sideways, he just really had to get out of the throttle, and it looked like he ran out of fuel. I don't know. The only way we're going to know that is to ask him, and hopefully we get that opportunity.
Well, let's see if we can go the starting grid for the second of the 2 Lynchburg T-shirt company duels here at Daytona. Of course, in that first race, unfortunately, we didn't quite get to put up the results and figure out who was able to qualify. But one of the nice things here about YouTube is you guys can just rewind it just a little bit. It is the top 5 finishers in the first race, I do believe, who will move into next week's Simbox 250, who did not have a letter L beside their name. Meanwhile, John Canizaro in the number 74 machine will be starting on the pole in race number 2. Matt Cherry in the number 48 to his outside. Row number 2, the number 2 of Justin White on the inside, with Paul Bilson in the number 51 machine to his outside. Nicholas Bradley and Owen Bridges will roll off from row number 3. Bill Edwards and Roger Muth on row number 4. James Lorello and Tim Hammond in the number 9 and the number 25 machines will be rolling off from row number 5.
And in row number 6, we have Brian Bradley on the inside, Jamar Dumas on the outside. Following them will be Nathan Maurer starting 13th with Aaron Mack in 14th, Brett Ackard 15th, Ben Mashburn 16th, Colin Ullery 17th, Ron Giovo in 18th, Trevor Shaw 19th, and Corey Sommer in 20th.
Rounding out the field, the 06 Christopher Pendell, Matt Vanderkoy in the number 60, Brandon Sauls in the number 76, Justin Hutchinson 21, GJ Boydell, and Michael Mooning. But up at the front, John Canizaro, pace car has headed down pit road. We're going to get set to go green flag here at Daytona for the second of the 2 Lynchburg duels. We saw a fantastic race in race number 1. Will we see it again here? Another 40 laps here at Daytona as the field starts to stretch out. Canizaro in the number 74 machine with help from the number 48 of Cherry, already getting out to a lead. And Drew, we're new to this league. We're still learning people's names. Actually, I found out Guyvo in the number 17 machine. Ron Guyvo. So we'll figure that out as the season goes on here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series.
Absolutely, and it's definitely a learning process, but I think that too, Justin White starting P3 had to be a little disappointed that he wasn't able to get a better start and get right on the bumper of that 74 and get to P2, because he let both the 48 and the 51 by him, and now he's trying to make his positions back up on that outside line right in front of that 22 of Owen Bridges.
Yeah, you see that outside line starting to get formed up just a little bit better here. We saw that in the first race, Drew, that it took about a lap and a half or so for that outside line to really get wound up. And now the number 2 machine of Justin White right now going toe-to-toe with your race leader, John Cannizzaro, with a little bit of help from behind in, I believe that's the number 22 machine of Owen Bridges.
Absolutely. It seems like that outside line since that first lap has had quite a bit of momentum. But again, as I said, at the 74, John Cannizzaro comes right back on him, getting quite a bit of help from that 48 truck of Matt Cherry. They are looking really strong, even though that inside line definitely does not have the same amount of organization as that high line does. We'll see if they can make those positions back. As again, here we come, that 2 truck with a ton of momentum, looking to get right up there with that 48 of Matt Cherry, with John Cannizzaro still out front, not really challenged quite yet, as quite a bit of back and forth from that 22 of Owen Bridges.
Absolutely, and you can see there in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, current track temperature 109 degrees Fahrenheit. It is hot, folks, here at Daytona. All these trucks, I'm sure they would be sliding around at the end of their tire life. Now, luckily, they have a little bit shorter of a fuel tank, only 60% run here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series, so they will be on pit road possibly around halfway. At least that's what we saw in race number 1 when we had that long green flag run to start off that race. So still quite a bit of fuel in the tanks of these race trucks. But currently it is the number 74 machine, John Cannizzaro, who continues to lead. Started on the pole in race number 2 of these Lynchburg Duels, and so far has led all of the laps. But so far, like what we saw in race number 1, these drivers taking it a little bit easy here in the early going. But Drew, I know they saw a bunch of the drivers out there on the racetrack in heat number 1, so I'm sure they're already really antsy to get going.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what's so, we got a little truck in the wall, but he was able to save that towards the back of a white and red truck. But no further dramas there. Yeah, it's one of those weird things. That's an aggressive walk from that 74 truck. Is he gonna go? Oh my goodness, that was close. He wanted that outside line, and he took it. That's for sure. Oh, is it 22? Oh, big wreck.
And this is the big one early on. The number 22 machine spinning around right there. That's Owen Bridges in that machine. We'll go back and see if we can get a replay of this one here on 3-Wide TV. Coming out of turn number 4. He's up there near the front of the field. Let's see if we can see what happened here, Drew. Has the number 93 below him? Do they make a little bit of contact?
It looks like that 22 truck comes down just a bit when that 93 comes up just a bit. It's kind of one of those deals where I'm sure the 22 saw where he was exiting the trial, but thought he'd have a little more room. Certainly didn't, and they both paid the price for that incident. I'm actually kind of surprised more trucks weren't involved, considering the 22 was spinning in the middle of the track. I mean, quite a good job by most of these guys to get around him.
Here we go on board with this machine right here. In fact, we'll go on board with the number 40 machine, because I think these are the 2 cars that made collision. There you see the number 22 enter stage left, and the number 40 of Nicholas Bradley. Oh man, Drew, that is a heavy impact with the inside wall. Ended up doing a barrel roll even. So tough break for Nicholas Bradley. He's actually going to fall 1 lap down in that machine. You see him sitting on pit road right there, right in front of Owen Bridges. They're going to have to rely on the Lucky Dog Award as this race goes on to get back on the lead lap. But meanwhile, John Cannizzaro right there in the number 74 machine continues to lead.
Yeah, I'm sure that number 40 of Nicholas Bradley is glad he is locked in, because I just don't see any way that he would actually be able to compete really for that position, because that was a massive impact. Thank goodness these are sim trucks and not real trucks, because that certainly would have hurt in real life. But I think pretty much everybody else I looked like the 16 truck have some damage and stop, and I can't find them out on track. But I think short of those 2 trucks, it looks like everyone else was able to continue. So I think that they'll be able to get that fast repair and get right back out there.
Yeah, the number 16 right there, Brian Bradley sitting on pit road. Did see a little bit of damage out of some of the other cars, including James Lorello there in the number 9 machine. The 28 also got a piece of that one. That's Jamar Dumas in that machine. Also, the 76 Mobile right there, Brandon Sauls, he's also got a damaged truck. You see him coming down pit road. In fact, a whole bunch of cars now headed down pit road, led by the number 27 machine of Trevor Shaw. So a lot of the drivers electing to come down here, Drew, and I'm wondering if they kind of know about their pit window and said, you know what, I just kind of want to get a little bit different strategy on my race car as the 76 machine backing up there on pit road. Doesn't look like he can find his pit box. Luckily, finally, nope, still having problems getting into his pit box. That is very difficult to get into sometimes. You know, sometimes you miss it once, you reverse, you try and hit it again, and you're still either too close to the wall or too far away from the wall, and it can get pretty frustrating pretty fast. Luckily, it's under caution here.
Eventually, he was able to get it in there, but you definitely don't want to be doing that under green flag conditions. And as far as these guys that came in under this caution, I would imagine that you would just want a little bit more flexibility, right? Maybe you have a team, and I can't speak to that. I wasn't able to catch exactly who came down pit road, but I know that if I were a team, I would probably look at doing that if I'm not right out front, because then if I have 4 trucks that are working together, we can maybe stay out, try to gap the field that's probably going to be broken up quite a bit under green flag pit stops. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility to maybe you stay out, maybe you still come in, but at least you have those options, right, if you come down pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. Did want to see if we could get a word with TJ Buck, but unfortunately, he has left the server here on Discord, so it doesn't look like we'll be able to get a word with him. You see, I believe that's the number 60 machine headed down pit road once again. No, it's actually someone else. Not 100% sure. There's the number 60 machine out there on the racetrack right now. Still getting used to all these trucks. A whole bunch of new paint schemes for this Simbox truck series, and we'll get used to it. I'm sure you will too. Make sure you tune in. Got to give a huge shout out to who we got in the chat for the second of these Lynchburg duels. Got Joshua Sobel, just got out of the race car from the first one. I hope all went well in your race. Looks like you came away with a pretty good finish there, Joshua. Barrett Lee in the chat as well. Rayleigh Creative Travel, the Windsors, rooting on S2R. Tommy Salami as well, is in third place. Can't complain in race number 1. And Jeff Wyatt rooting on Old Guy Racing. Old Guy Racing, of course, one of the big teams here in the National Sim Racing Association. So got to give them a huge shout out and good luck here across the Simbox 250, both tonight in the Lynchburg Duels and next week in the first race. But once again, the number 74 machine going to lead us back to green here, Drew.
Absolutely, and we're going to see how this pit strategy plays out, and because if what we think might have happened to that 84 truck in the last race were to be true, where basically on that last lap, on his 20th green flag lap, he ran out of fuel. The guys that didn't pit, it's going to be pretty close for them to make it on one stop, but this pace car should be pulling down pit road just about now. There we go, timing. With a little bit of pause, and we should be coming back to green, and here we go. They are back under acceleration as John Cannizzaro leads them back to green.
Yeah, that number 74 machine so far pretty much leading every lap. In fact, he has led every lap in that race truck. We'll see if we can bring up a little bit of more telemetry as this run goes on, but that number 74 machine nice and quick as we get things back rolling. These trucks coming back up to speed. And Drew, currently there's a little bit of a hornet's nest right back here in the middle of the pack. The number 24 machine right there, Ben Mashburn, jumping from the high side to the inside right below the number 93 there, Roger Muth.
I think after that last wreck, maybe these guys want to get further up front and kind of get away from any potential hazards that could be happening. But that 48 truck of Matt Cherry looking to take the lead away from John Cannizzaro, who this is the first lap he's not going to lead all race, as we got him stacking up a little bit 3 wide-ish towards the back, but they were able to sort it out as Matt Cherry, new leader, 48 truck.
Yeah, Matt Cherry going to cut down in front of that number 74 machine. He knows that inside groove has been the fastest groove all night, but he used that high line to his advantage there to take the race lead as we're halfway down the back stretch. keep an eye on that number 62 machine as well. Colin Ullery in that race truck. First Ford in the field right now. Great to see Ford trucks finally in the iRacing simulator, Drew. I know that was a long time wish of a lot of iRacing folks that they didn't have Ford yet in the series, but now they do, and that number 62 is sporting that Red Bull's paint scheme, and he's going to lead that lap.
Absolutely. I think anything that kind of increases that that bit of immersion just a little bit further, right? And having, I don't know, every single manufacturer available to Cup teams and truck teams and Xfinity teams. It's great to have that on the sim. It's been a long while, but heck, I remember when the only truck was a Chevy for a long time. So it's great to see the progress that iRacing has made in getting this to as close as you can get to the real life thing.
And Drew, we have our answer thanks to the chat. iRacing Robbie saying, I can confirm 2 trucks ran out of fuel at the line in duel number 1. So that's going to be something to keep our eyes on here in duel number 2. Will we see any drivers run out of fuel again? I mean, that is just crazy that we had drivers run out of fuel in the final half mile coming to the checkered flag for all the marbles for some of them. I mean, some of those drivers who might have run out of fuel possibly didn't make it into the Simbox 250 because of it.
Oh, that lap truck of that 16 almost caused a wreck. Wow, that was close. Yeah, that is really, really, really surprising. I don't know. I thought there was no way that in 21 laps that 84 truck could run out of fuel, but I think that's what happened. And I think that puts these guys who didn't pit under this first caution in quite a conundrum if we don't see another one. Now, granted, I think that's fairly unlikely, but if it were to occur, it's going to be really, really tight for them to make it the rest of the way on fuel with one more stop.
Yeah, I definitely don't think the drivers who came down pit road under this last caution will be able to make it on fuel from there, but possibly, Drew, they might be able to take a little bit less fuel under their green flag pit stop here. You know, if it was... Who was that who ended up stage left? I believe that's Paul Bilson. There he is.
Oh, we got another wreck in turn 3 and 4, the 24 truck. Oh, it's a big hit further back in the pack. Is that... They're still wrecking, and there's no yellow yet.
Caution, yellow flag.
There it goes, finally. Wow, that's a big wreck for taking that long to throw a yellow. I know that Ben Mashburn was involved along with several other trucks.
Well, we'll see if we can go back and line this one up, because this is definitely going to be an accident that we're going to have to get a couple of angles on. So, folks, bear with us here just shortly. So this is the first one when Paul Bilson looks like he got turned possibly off of Canizaro, and he ended up down in the inside wall. Now Ben Mashburn here in the number 24 machine. He was 3 wide, possibly a little bit of neck coat there. James Lorello in the middle, and look at them stack up. The 18 machine on the spin cycle back there. Who is that in that number 18 machine back there, Drew? Because I think that's Corey Summer in that race car. He got a huge hit.
Yeah, that is vicious. That looks like an IndyCar wreck, right? When they get that gearbox into a wall and it just spins them around. And that wreck took a long time to stop occurring. You know what's funny is that 51 of Paul Bilson, I think that might have been the best thing that could have happened to him, because it kept him out of this wreck, right? I know that was a little bit further back in the pack, but sometimes that kind of stuff happens to where I don't think he got any real damage. There was no danger of him blowing his engine in that wreck, and then it kind of prevented him from potentially being involved in something bigger. But that was quite a dramatic impact for that 18 of Corey Sommer.
Yeah, so we are now under caution. Here comes some of your race leaders down pit road. Matt Cherry, Colin Ullery, John Canizaro on pit road. A whole bunch of drivers electing to come down pit road. There is Canizaro in the number 74 machine. He stopped a little bit long in his box. And Drew, we mentioned how difficult it can be to get into your pit box, as the number 48 is going to win the race off pit road. But especially on these super speedways, they run a different brake package here, and it just makes it really slippery getting into your box.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things where if you're not used to these super speedway brakes, it can be a real challenge. I know I had an '87 Cup race on Monday night where I think at the pit entry line I was doing about 90 miles an hour at Talladega. So it didn't go well. Needless to say, I got a penalty and did not finish well in that race. But it's just sometimes you forget how lethargic this package of brakes is, and it can really catch you off guard even when you're just pulling in to your pit stall under yellow.
Absolutely. Well, we'll bring up the current weather details as you can see how all these drivers have worked their way off of pit road. Now the number 35 machine of Aaron Mack, he's been out there now for quite some time in that race machine. You'll see that up at the top. He has 15 laps on his tires, is yet to pit in this race. And then you have a bunch of cars who just came down pit road, so look for your driver at the top of your screen to see when they recently came down pit road or not. But I'll tell you what, Drew, we definitely have this moment in time, a racetrack that is slowly starting to lose temperature. It's down to 108 degrees track temperature, and we'll have to see how that goes on as this race goes on, because of course a high track temperature will have a very slick feel to it.
Oh, absolutely. And we saw our leader, our temporary leader in Aaron Mack decide to come down pit road. I was about to bring up that that seems questionable after 15 laps to not pit when they struggled to make 20 under green in the previous race, but I think it was just maybe to get out there and lead a lap. But yeah, I agree. It's still really toasty out there. I don't think that at Daytona you're really going to notice 3 or 4 degrees of difference in track temp when the track's this toasty. But it might make a little bit of a positive difference in just being able to control the truck, maybe in one of those situations, which maybe you're banging doors with another driver. But I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference yet. But if we do see it, maybe we catch a cloud or two and it falls a couple more degrees, I think that we could see these speeds pick up quite a bit.
Absolutely. Jeff Wyatt in the chat saying Bilson is a road course ace, doesn't seem to have the luck on the ovals, and we saw that a little bit there. I mean, getting involved in that accident here with more than 25 laps to go. We'll have 24 laps to go this time by. Question for the chat, who's going to go to victory lane in race number 2 of the Lynchburg Duels here at Daytona? I'm very curious to know who your pick is, because if it's anything like race number 1, it could be a pretty crazy finish, and it could be pretty difficult to tell right all the way up to the end. Meanwhile, Michael Mooney and Trevor Shaw will lead us back to green. The pace car going to head down pit road. The number 88 and the 27 side by side here as the green flag waves once again at Daytona.
Yeah, interesting little restart here as we had a ton of trucks come down pit road under that last lap before green flag conditions. So those guys towards the back of that long single file line are going to be in quite a bit of danger of losing this main pack. Already we see back there, it looks like they're already going to lose this draft of this main pack, and that's not going to be something you want to see if you're not locked into this. But meanwhile, up front, we have Michael Mooney in that 88 truck challenging Trevor Shaw in that 27 machine.
Yeah, absolutely. You see that second pack of cars. James Lorello's up there in the number 9 machine as well, but up at the front, it is a pretty good pack right here all the way back to about the number 28 machine. That's really the top 15. Jamar Dumas back there in that number 28. He is on the back end of that. Then it's a gap back to the number 151 machine. But the 76 machine gets turned down into the inside, and he's going to keep on going. That's Brandon Sauls. One of the other cars was involved. He comes back up the racetrack, and the number 40 is involved. The 16 is involved again. And Drew, we're back to caution here at Daytona.
Yeah, that 16 hasn't had the best of nights. Brian Bradley. And 2 laps down, and the truck just comes right. What is he going to do? It just comes up right in front of him. That's so unfortunate. As we're taking a look at the replay now.
Yeah, so we're keeping our eyes there on the number 76 machine of Saul's. And right there has the number 48 machine behind him. We're going to go here into a little bit of slow-mo action to see if we can break down what happened. Definitely a little bit of contact there with the number 48 machine right down there into the side of the number 25. And really the number 25 machine got the worst of it. Tim Hammond right there spinning down across the bottom of the racetrack. Tough break for that number 25.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. It looks like Brandon Sauls pretty much had it under control, but he just clipped that like berm of grass in turn one, and it launched him up the track. That's really unfortunate. Yeah, here we go looking at the replay with the perspective of the 25 truck. Who, yeah, see, there's that berm of grass that I'm talking about. It looks like he wasn't going to come back up into the pack till he hit that thing, and then I don't think there was a lot he could have done at that point, nor the guys that unfortunately he came into the path of.
Drew, I think we're going to have to go on board with the number 9 machine. And we're going to have to do a little bit of gyro action here because on board here with the number 9 of James Lorello, watch what happens to Lorello. Turned up into the wall, upside down, into the air. James Lorello involved again in this one. I'm sure this is not what he wanted to see in that race car. As Lorello once again going to have to take a fast repair. He's already back out there on the circuit, coming back out right now. But up at the front, John Cannizzaro, the number 74 machine, he's got back to the front, Drew. Some drivers here electing to come down pit road. Maybe they're starting to think they're in their window. Drivers like Michael Mooney right there. And to be honest with you, this is on the cusp of being in the window of making it to the end.
Yeah, it's, I think I would probably come down next time, and I think you'll be really, really close. I think this is just a little short, especially if it goes green, as we saw with that 84 truck of TJ Buck. It's just so close to making it 20 laps on this that it's cutting it really close. Especially if I'm one of those guys further towards the back, I am absolutely coming back down pit road this next time by. And then I'm just going to hope that it goes green and I'm in a great position to take a little bit of a fuel mileage win at a track in a 20-lap sprint that you normally aren't going to see a fuel mileage in, but it's going to be really close. I mean, we know for sure that our leader in John Cannizzaro cannot make it, nor can most of those guys right behind him. It's going to be, what about those trucks that came down pit road this time? Can they make it? Because if it goes green, I mean, obviously they're in a better position than that 74 truck, but I still think it's going to be really touch and go, and they're probably going to have to save a little bit of fuel.
Right there is the 014 machine, GJ Boydell. He is your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner under this caution, so he will get back onto the lead lap. Looks like we'll have 20 trucks on the lead lap when we go back to green flag here shortly, led by the number 74 machine. Up at the top of your screen, you can see who elected to stay out. And up there, Cannizzaro, White, Cherry, Gaivo, all electing to stay out. And then you have a bunch of cars who elected to come down pit road. And Drew, I'm curious to see if we see any other drivers elect to come down pit road as the pace car lights have turned off. So we're going to get set to go back to green flag here shortly. But it doesn't look like we have all too many takers on pit road. In fact, the only one I'm seeing right now is the 971 of Nathan Maurer. But I was expecting to see some more drivers come down, just top off, and see if that can help get them to the end.
Yeah, I wonder if that last restart had them spooked a little bit coming down pit road with one to go, because we saw that long line of cars that pitted with one to go, and I think it cost quite a few of them the ability to keep with that lead pack. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of guys were a little hesitant to come back down pit road this time, but that will really, really, really potentially give a really good advantage to that 971 truck of Nathan Maurer. But up front, the guy that we have seen all night long in John Cannizzaro looking strong. I mean, it looks darn near like the start of the race, right? 2 truck on the outside, 74 leading him to green, that 48 truck up there with him. You wouldn't know that 20 laps have gone by with that group starting up front.
Yeah, and of course, we have now reached the halfway mark in race number 2 of the 2 Lynchburg Duels. We saw a spectacular finish in race number 1 of the Lynchburg Duels. If you did get to see it and you're just now tuning in, make sure you go back and watch it, because we had drivers running out of fuel, we had 3 wide, we had crashing, all across the start-finish line to see who makes it into next week's Simbox 250 right here on 3Y TV for the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. We're going to get set to go back to green flag once again. The pace car going to come down pit road, racing the hands of Canizaro. He will lead his 11th lap this time by in that number 74 machine. So far leading over half the race in that trucks. The number 48, Matt Cherry, right behind him. And Drew, this is not the first time we've seen those two trucks lined up 1-2 out there on the racetrack.
Absolutely, and kind of a repeat of the start. The two did not get the best of jumps on that restart, but I think it might have been a little more intentional this time, trying to get to that inside line as he whips it to the outside of the 48 on the exit of turn 2, looking to at least take second away. Hopefully the lead is, I think he's got quite a bit of momentum coming with that 17 truck behind him. Oh, but the 17 doesn't really want to cooperate, looks to the outside. That's going to break their momentum by quite a bit as that 48 truck's pushing John Canizaro back out front. Quite a bit of gap to that next truck on the inside line as two's hanging strong of Justin White. He is not going to settle for falling back in line.
And Drew, one driver, I got to say, has so far had a fantastic recovery. Right on board with him right here, Paul Bilson in this machine. Remember, he was involved in that accident a little while ago on the backstretch before the big melee happened in turn number 3. But he's back up there inside the top 10. And as you can see down the backstretch, he's got Gaivo in front of him in the number 17 machine. Possibly a little bit of a bump to the back bumper of Justin White. Still Canizaro leading the way. And we haven't really talked so far in the second race, Drew, about the drivers who are not locked in. Currently, Colin Ullery leading the way in that group of cars as we can bring up the intervals right there on the left-hand side of your screen as you see the drivers who have L's by their name. Trevor Shaw sitting in 5th, and then Ron Gaivo down there in 7th. So a couple of drivers inside the top 5 here are trying to race their way into next week's Simbox 250.
Absolutely, and that might have explained why Gaivo really didn't want to settle into that second position on the outside lane. I think he really wants to get up there and kind of ensure that he's going to be leading a line, which is going to put him in a really good position to ensuring that he makes that Simbox 250. But oh, we got a truck to the inside. Is he going to come back up in front of traffic? I don't think so. I think he's going to sort that out. But we still have John Canizaro up front with the 2 truck into the outside wall. What kind of drama is that going to entail? He's able to keep it up there and under control. But oh, we got a disappearing truck back there that looked like he was a little bit sideways. But he is back and under control as now the 48 truck of Matt Cherry. I think he's been the only other truck to lead laps besides this 74 of John Canizaro, and he looks really comfortable out front in that inside line.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch this field fan out. That field doing a fantastic job of avoiding the number 2 machine after he hit the outside wall. There were 3 and 4 wide scattering through one of the, in my opinion, Drew, one of the narrowest portions of the Daytona International Speedway. Doing a fantastic job.
Certainly is one of those challenging, definitely the most challenging part of the track, right? Because you don't have the banking that you have in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So the trucks are just a little bit more on edge where you might survive a bump through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but you're probably not going to survive it through the tri-oval. And it's really hard to change direction. We got 2 cars in the outside wall. That orange truck, I can't tell what number it is. Oh, we got a big wreck going into
the yellow flag is out.
Well, we're going to have to go back and see if we can sort this one out once again here on the 3Y TV because we're back under caution once again here in this one. Let's see if we can make some sense of this one. This is a little bit further back in the pack. Maybe we can see what happens up here. There's the number 93 right in front of Bill. Oh, there's the contact. The 93 and the 51. The 25 goes in the 60. And unfortunately, Bilson once again in that number 51 machine get the bad end of the stick. He got a little bit earlier. We saw that, Drew. And unfortunately, that number 51 machine seems like it has a little bit of a bullseye on it. We heard it in the chat a little bit ago as we can see exactly what happened here. Let's see if we can put this one in slow motion just a little bit as they work their way through the trials. We've got the number 9 of Lorello right behind him. Then you have the number 93 machine. That's Roger Muth right there. Looks like the number 93 moved up. Possibly there might have been contact back there with the 88. But then that killed all of the 51's momentum. The 25, nowhere to go. And unfortunately, after that contact, it was kind of on from there.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Paul Bilson definitely had quite a bit of misfortune last year, and unfortunately, it's at least carried through into this dual race because I don't think there was a lot that he could have done in that situation. It looked like the 93 maybe, but like kind of had a bump to the truck in front of him that kind of turned him sideways, and then Bilson nowhere to go, and then that 60 truck just comes up and they both get into the outside wall, and unfortunately. The guy that I think's least at fault ends up on the worst end of that ordeal.
Yeah, and now we have a couple drivers coming down pit road, including the 48 machine. Matt Cherry was your race leader. Does have a little bit of right rear damage on that number 48 truck. But Drew, we know one thing about this point of the race. These drivers will be able to make it to the end from here.
Absolutely. I'm kind of surprised that everyone isn't coming down pit road just to be sure. Maybe the guys that came down this last caution think that these laps under yellow will definitely secure their ability to make the end of this race without pitting again. But I'm still really questionable because I thought that those guys in the last race with absolute certainty would be able to make it the rest of the way on that tank of gas, but that was not the case for several drivers out there. So I really like this move by the 48 truck. I don't think he's going to lose too much track position, but I mean, we'll see when it all pans out. But I like that security where he's not going to have to save any fuel, where some of these guys that are more marginal in front of him might have to, but he can just go as hard as he can trying to get this race win.
Yeah, and you see him right there. In fact, currently iRacing has him scored in 9th. So a fresh tank of fuel. He knows he's good to the end. Doesn't have to really worry about a green-white checker or not because of all that fuel he just added to that machine. And he didn't even lose the top 10 out of that whole ordeal. So definitely got to keep an eye on this number 48 machine here in the closing laps. Meanwhile, in front of him, it is the number 62 machine right there, Colin Ullery, who has stayed out and gotten to the race lead. Trevor Shaw, the number 27, right behind him. Then John Cannizzaro. So far, the number 74 has led 13 laps in this race. But Drew, Colin Ullery, he's one of those drivers, doesn't have an L beside his name. He's not locked in like the drivers who have an L beside their name. So definitely good for him to stay right where he is over these closing laps because we will have almost 10 laps to go when we go back to green flag racing.
Absolutely. Both Colin and the driver immediately behind him and Trevor Shaw now starting on his outside on this restart. Both of those drivers are not locked in. There's quite a few guys up front. We have James Lorello in the 9 truck up in 7th and Bill Edwards in 8th. Or I'm sorry, Bill is locked in, but Roger Muth in 10th. All not locked in, but all in very good positions. But that can just change so quickly at Daytona, right? You can be P2, think you're great on the white flag lap, and someone makes it a really aggressive move, and all of a sudden you're not in so great of a position. But I think that, there's nothing that you can do other than put yourself in those positions with the 27 truck and that 62 of Colin Ullery certainly are, as we see them trying to put a little heat on their tires in the backstretch. I don't know how much that's going to help them here at Daytona, but let's see how these guys like the 74, how quickly can John Cannizzaro get back up there? He's been so strong all race. You know he's itching to get back into the front of this race.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got to give a huge shout out to everyone in the chat. Of course, Joshua Sobel, he asked whether or not we're going to be broadcasting the fun race after these 2 races, and I believe we'll stick around and do that. Of course, gives us a little bit more time with all of these cars out there. We do have to learn what all these cars look like as the season goes on. Jeff Wyatt saying, told you, Bilson, bad luck once again. Yeah, indeed. We'll have to see if he can bounce back once again. Did a good job of that the first time. The Windsor's rooting on in that number 51 machine, but the pace car has headed down pit road, so we're back to green flag racing. Also, Tana Himmelman in the chat as well. Make sure you grab a little bit of popcorn because we have just over 10 laps to go. And Ullery in that number 62 machine here, Drew, out to a pretty good jump on this restart.
Really good overall restart by that inside line, as that's definitely not what that 27 of Trevor Shaw was looking to get in that Monster Energy Chevy Silverado. Is whoa, aggressive move by the 88 of Michael Mooney on the outside line. He definitely wants to get up there and mix it up with the leaders. But it's 2x2x2 all the way through. It looks like the top 15, maybe top 20, as that inside line looks really, really organized, though. And that last few trucks on that outside are kind of broken up just a little bit. But it looks like Michael Mooney's going to have quite a bit of a run on the outside line at a turn 4 coming into the tri-oval. He's going to maintain P3, looking to get up there and mix it up with those top 2.
And look at Cannizzaro. Is he thinking about jumping to the high side? No, he ducks back in behind the number 62 machine as Mooney leads that high groove. Right behind Mooney is the number 27 of Trevor Shaw. They're trying to push their way to the front. Then you see the 151 of Brett Acworth in that machine, and the number 9 of James Lorello once again starting to work his way up towards the front. Remember, that number 9 machine of Lorello, he's been involved in a couple of accidents in that race truck, but now back inside the top 10. And Drew, one driver we've been talking about, the number 48 machine of Matt Cherry, he's currently in the 8th position, so he's already gained a couple positions since that restart.
Absolutely. We both identified him as a guy who was in a great position, and he's only putting himself in a better position. No worries on fuel, even with green-white checkers, fresh tires, and he is already making moves on this restart to get himself in a great position. As Michael Mooney, that's a heck of a slide by that 27 truck going into turn 1. I'm surprised it didn't cost that outside line more momentum, because this outside line has been so organized, so compact on this restart. They have really been able to take the fight to the inside line led by Colin Ullery here. And that 88 truck definitely going to be at least out in front by a nose on that 62 going into turn 3 and 4.
Well, I love this shot from high atop the blimp because it shows you who is really pushing who and how much bump drafting is going on. Look at in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, the 62 and the 74 are lined up together. That outside groove not quite lined up like that inside groove is right now. In fact, a little bit of a gap in between the second and third place cars of both the inside and the high lines, but that's now closing up as they hit turn number 1. So I really love this blimp cam. I think it really tells the tale of all these drivers working their way around Daytona. A lot of people think coming to super speedways is all about keeping your foot flat. It's a lot more difficult than that, Drew. You're modulating your distance to the car ahead. You're trying not to push that car in awkward positions. And at the same time, you're dragging the brake. You're dragging the throttle a little bit. You're trying to time your pushes just perfectly to launch that car out front.
Absolutely, and I think what this kind of highlights is I think it's really, really hard on that outside line, as we might have a 3-wide. Nope, that 9 of James Lorello. Oh, we got a wreck. That's the 28 truck around. Big wreck in the middle of the pack.
The 28 machine, there was contact there between the 48 and the 28, cars going around all over the place. The 971 going down across the racetrack. We'll go see if we could sort this out here on the 3-wide TV replay. It all happened right up between the 28 and the 48. Those were the two cars that were really close with one another. Watch this here, the 48 and the 151, excuse me. They make a little bit of contact and it was on from there. Look at the 151 getting a shot, the 35 coming back across the racetrack. But this will put us back under the caution flag here, Drew, with under 10 laps to go. So it will be another shootout here at Daytona. We'll see if we can get one more look at this one, possibly from a little bit different angle. Watch the 48 down there, Drew, with the 151. Just made a little bit of contact here through the trial.
It looks, and we've seen this before, it looks like the 48 moved up maybe a quarter of a lane, but the 151 also came down maybe a quarter of a lane, and that just resulted in both of them making contact. And unfortunately, the 151 being on definitely the worst end of that, and then quite a few cars get involved after that. It's unfortunate, and we've talked about how tricky that tri-oval is. It's so hard to like kind of make a reaction to the car or the truck around you, because you're already kind of at the limit of grip, especially on the front end, where if you put a little bit of wheel into it, that truck's not going to really respond quickly. And that might have been what happened to that 48 truck, is maybe he just didn't arc it in quite like he needed to. And then the front lost a little bit of grip. And then the 151, unfortunately, was also turning down to maybe try to get a run on the guy in front of him. And then there you go. You have an incident.
I'll tell you what, we got some fantastic looks there of some of the drivers just squeaking through here at Daytona. In fact, one of those drivers, and I will tell you, Jeff, in the chat, that one of the drivers we rode on board with was Paul Bilson, and he had fortuitous luck there. He was able to actually split the cars that were spinning, and now that number 51 machine has worked his way back up into the 12th position, so good job there by Bilson. Meanwhile, a couple of cars thinking about coming down pit road here, led by, I believe that is the number 93 machine, the 25 coming down, the 60 coming down as well. So some of the drivers towards the back of the pack here, Drew, coming down pit road, but we're going to have another shootout here towards the end.
Absolutely. I wonder how many of these guys are anticipating maybe green-white checkers, and they pitted around lap 20, right? We saw that be a problem in the previous race, and hopefully these guys are like, yeah, man, I think this is trending towards having 1 or 2 green-white checkers, and I want to make sure I have enough fuel. Maybe I'm not up front, so let's go ahead and ensure that I'm not going to have that problem. But man, the guy I'm really looking at is that 88 of Michael Mooney on this restart. He looked so strong on that outside line. It looked like I don't know what else he could have done, because I just don't think that outside line has been any quicker than the inside for the vast majority of both of these two duels. But he looked as strong as I've seen somebody on the outside line. And he's going to be starting there again. It's what kind of restart can this inside line with Colin Ullery, if he indeed takes the inside line, and John Cannizzaro. It looked like John was really, really antsy, and he wanted to get back into that lead that he had for so long at the beginning of this race.
Yeah, we're on board with that number 88 machine right now, looking at the back bumper of that number 62. And I'll tell you what, that number 88 machine looking very, very sporty out there here tonight, right there. Gotta say, it's a pretty good looking paint scheme there, Drew. Definitely can't miss that number 88 with that bright orange all over that race car. So pretty cool to see that. Gotta say, there's some really spectacular paints on these cars in this series, and I know that's one thing, kind of as a commentator, that I'm so excited to see all the drivers with all their levels of creativity coming out with different paint schemes. You know, we'll see many different paint schemes throughout the season. We'll see drivers with special paint schemes here and there. Definitely going to be really cool to watch. It's going to be a little tricky for us up here in the booth, you know, making sure we get to know all the cars in each and every week. But we'll get to know everyone by their number and all that stuff as the season goes on. Of course, 3-Wide TV, this is the first race that we have done with the NSRA series. So great to have you on board, Drew. I know this is really your first time up here in the booth on 3-Wide TV, and it'll be a great season. I mean, we've got some great races lined up.
If these two duels tonight are any indication, this is going to be a super, super exciting season. It's a blast to call these races. You know, this might be like my first official race, but it's been a pretty comfortable experience, especially, you know, with the little bit of practice that we've put into it. That's really, really paid off, and it also helps when there's fantastic action out on track like there's been tonight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Got to give a shout out to one of the other sponsors here for the NSRA Simbox Truck Series, and that's Taz Racing Customs. Unfortunately, the way iRacing does the heats here tonight in the Lynchburg Duels, it's a little bit tricky when it comes to who started where, but Taz Racing Customs has jumped on board for the biggest mover award all season long, so we'll definitely be starting that next week in the Simbox 250. But if you want a custom diecast of any car, whether it's your sim racing car or one of the real-life NASCARs, go check out Taz Racing Customs, because they can hook you up. Meanwhile, Pace Car is headed down pit road, and the green flag is back in the air. Just 3 laps to go here at Daytona, and that number 62 machine here, Drew, once again, a fantastic restart for that race car.
Bottom line as a whole was a lot better on that restart. And again, that 74 John Cannizzaro, he's in a great position. It's just, what are these guys going to do behind him, as we see that 88 of Michael Mooney fading just a bit, as he has no help on that outside line. I think he's probably going to be looking to slot in behind that 27 truck, but that hole is quickly closing. Yeah, he's just going to get stuck on that outside line. He's going to fall way, 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 way back. But out front, the 62 definitely in control of this as we are coming to just a few laps to go.
And that number 62 machine, Drew, he has now led the most laps here tonight. This will be his 16th lap led. The only other driver to lead more than 10 laps right behind him, John Cannizzaro in that number 74 machine.
Oh, we got
contact in the back. That's the 88 machine who has gone around. And we'll have to see if we can once again dial this one up. Back there racing with the number 2 machine. A little bit of contact right there. Comes back down into Muth there in the number 93 machine. And it was on from there. We'll see if we can go back and get another look at that one, Drew. Because I'll tell you what, that was right there up into the outside wall. 93 gets clipped. And really, a lot of drivers towards the back of the pack. Some bad luck.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We just talked about that 88 really, really, really sliding back. And I don't know if he just got a little tight in the tri-oval. Yeah, right here. It looks like he just got a little high. Maybe he lost the nose a little bit, slid up in front of the 2, made a little bit of contact, and then a bunch of innocent victims around him, including that 93 truck.
Oh, man, Drew, did you see that number 28 machine right there? Let's see if we can get another look. With that number 28 machine, but he got up on 2 wheels, hit a bump, and we'll see if we can dial up this one right here for you. You see the wreck happen out front right there. He dives down to the inside. Watch this bump, and boom! Nope, there it is. Boom! I let it just a little bit too much, but luckily for Jamar Dumas, he will be able to get back out there on the race truck, or on the racetrack, I should say, in that race truck. And hopefully not lose all too much time. But we're going to have an attempt at a green-white checker here, Drew.
Somebody needs to tell Jamar that this isn't the off-road trucks. These are oval trucks, right? You don't want to be launching these things up in the air. They don't like that too much. That was a very, very dramatic incident for that 28 truck, although he looks to be more or less okay. So good news for him. Out front, it's pretty much as it was in the last restart, although this time John Cannizzaro is going to have a clean view in front of him as he should be starting on the outside line of that next to that 62 truck. And you know he is going to be seeking that lead. There's only, I anticipate that there will only be 2 laps left. We'll see if the rest of the field complies with that. But he's definitely going to be looking for that lead.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, the pace car lights appear to have stayed on, so we will get another lap of pacing here at Daytona. And Drew, why don't we see if we can dial up the current race leader, the number 62 machine of Colin Ullery. And here he is. Colin, Peter Shorten, 3 White TV booth. You got a copy?
Got ya.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've led the most laps in this race, but you're still 2 laps away from the checkered flag when we go back to green flag racing. How's that number 62 machine driven for you here tonight, and how are you going to get the win?
Well, I think it's the fastest car out here. I started 17th, and by the first caution, I think I was up in the, 6th. So I'm just going to go flat out and hope 48 will just push me to a victory.
Well, I'll tell you what, looking at the top 5, you're the only Ford right now in the top 5. You got a bunch of Chevys right behind you. How cool is it to have Ford in iRacing now with the F-150?
It's great. I think they should have been in it sooner.
Yeah, definitely great to have them in iRacing. And, of course, probably that was partly spurred by when we did have the initial shutdown and all the drivers were racing out there, the real life NASCAR drivers. But, definitely getting into the Simbox 250 is the big goal of this race. You going to stick around for the fun race afterwards?
Yes, I will be.
All right, so we'll let you get back to it. Best of luck there, Colin. We'll see if you can take home the checkered flag in duel number 2. All right, well, we'll move him back to his channel. But Drew, now it seems like, he's hoping that the number the number 48 machine, excuse me, right behind him is going to stick with him. I don't know about that, you know. These are race car drivers. They want to get that checkered flag.
Absolutely. We've seen that 48 be super quick all night. He's got he was out there leading laps earlier, and he definitely didn't look like he was going to be satisfied by not being out in front as well. So we'll see. I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice, right? Sometimes you just have to push that truck in front of you, and there's nowhere to go. Being on the inside line gives you typically even less options than the outside. So he might not have a whole lot of choice depending on how tight that outside line runs the guys on the inside. But he has, after that later pit stop than most of the trucks around him, put himself in a fantastic position to try to get back out front and win duel number 2.
Absolutely. Well, we have 16 cars on the lead lap for this restart. First car 1 lap down is the 151 of Brett Acworth. Bill Edwards in the number 50, also 1 lap down. I feel a little bit disappointed for Bill. I mean, I think he was one of those drivers who tried to use that strategy, Drew, that we talked about earlier in the race, that you either want to be ahead of the wreck or behind the wreck. And that number 50, I think he just tried to play it easy here tonight. And unfortunately, things didn't go his way. He got caught up in some of the accidents. But I'm sure we'll see him next week because he is locked into next week's Simbox 250 right here on 3Wide TV. Make sure you do not miss it. That is technically the official start to the 2020-2021 Simbox Truck Series here on 3Wide TV.
green.
But the green flag is in the air for the first attempt at a green-white checker. And Drew, the 62 machine is on the loud pedal.
Absolutely great restart from the 62 and the 48 behind him as that 74 truck slots into third on the inside line. That outside, I mean, it's not completely disorganized, but it definitely is not, it doesn't have the momentum that the inside currently has. I think that 74 is in a pretty good position to potentially capitalize on that outside line, making a bit of a move. We'll see if he does that. Oh, he pulls to the inside and lets off. I'm not sure what's going on there. He just decides, but then he gets involved in a wreck anyways, as there's a wreck towards the back, and a yellow flag is out.
And that might do it. We'll see if we can figure out what happened there. I know the number 50 machine was involved, and it looks like he is going to pull off the racetrack. We'll see if we can see exactly what happened here on this 3Wide TV replay in just a second. Sorry, having a little bit of difficulty lining this thing up for you. Unfortunately, all the cars are white right there, but I promise you that right now we're looking at the number 50 of Edwards, and you see that contact, and he is down into the inside wall, going to flip it upside down on his lid. Luckily, he's going to pull a little bit of a Dale Earnhardt here, get back onto 4 wheels, but it looks like he's going to have to take a tow back to pit road. But Drew, definitely not what you want to see here in this one, as we are now back live up at the front. Colin Ullery, well, he was able to stay in the race lead, but it looks like we're going to have another attempt at a green-white checker here on 3Wide TV. So attempt number 2 coming out. Getting word from Joshua Sobel that Cannizzaro ran out of fuel, Drew. So he is one of those drivers who had not pitted in quite some time, and now finds himself off the racetrack and on pit road.
Absolutely. I thought he was just, I mean, I don't know why you would do that, but it looked like he was just backing off. But no, he ran out of fuel, and then he's coasting on the inside line. It still gets involved in that wreck. That's a whole bunch of misfortune in a very short period of time for Cannizzaro. The 62 coming down pit road, he must be short on fuel. That's going to hand the lead to that 48, which we were talking about. We liked that move from Matt Cherry early on, and it looks like it is paying off now as unfortunately Colin Ullery has to come down pit road to get some fuel in that number 62 truck.
And think about the implications of that, Drew. I mean, Ullery is one of those drivers who doesn't have an L beside his name. He's not locked in to next week's Simbox 250. This green-white checker has completely put him in a bind. He's now going to have to race his way up through the field. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen there, the drivers who have an L beside their name locked in, and the drivers who do not have an L beside their name. Trevor Shaw, Pendel, some of those drivers up towards the front who are doing well. So Ullery, as live timing and scoring will eventually update. Apologize for the little bit of a slow live timing and scoring, but I promise you the number 62 will be a little bit further back in the pack. In fact, currently being scored 13th out there on the racetrack. But tell you what, Drew, definitely some interesting events happening here right at the end of this race.
Absolutely. I mean, we should have been tracking it, but it's just not something I was thinking about. That 74 running out of fuel in the Newlery definitely, I mean, probably was going to run out under that second attempt. I wonder if he would have made the first attempt if he wasn't right. Like, who knows? It's one of those deals where it was really, really close. But yeah, I think we're seeing I mean, at least the top two, Trevor Shaw, Matt Cherry, have been up there for the most part all night. Pendel, we have not seen much of, and I believe it's Mr. Bad Luck at 51, Paul Bilson, up in fourth. Can he snag this after quite a few incidents of not of his own doing that looked like they were going to derail his night? He has made a nice recovery.
Oh, absolutely. That number 51 machine definitely on track for a good finish. Meanwhile, the 151 machine, Brett Ackard, is working his way around the racetrack. He is the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner for this caution. We'll be back, I believe, to 15 cars on the lead lap. 15 trucks, I should say, here for this restart that is coming up here shortly. You see the field working their way now around the racetrack. Pace car lights have turned off once again. And, oh, look at Ullery there trying to go up through the middle, making a little bit of contact with one of the cars, or one of the trucks back there, trying to get lined up and into position here. So definitely we'll have to see how far Ullery can get his way through the field, because remember, he's one of those drivers on the outside looking in now.
Absolutely, and he's around a whole bunch of other drivers who are looking to do the same thing. Yeah, there's, I mean, that's kind of the hornet's nest back there with guys that are not locked in. Trevor Shaw looking like he's in a great position, as well as Pendel, that 17 truck behind them, Tim Hammond. They all are in a pretty good shape, but we know how quickly that can change at Daytona, especially when there's only 2 laps for all of these guys to make moves. There is going to be no patience. There's not going to be any cutting your fellow competitors some breaks and giving them some room. It is going to be full throttle to the finish.
All right, question for the chat. Who do you think is going to take the checkered flag here in race number 2 of the Lynchburg T-shirt duels here at Daytona? It will be the number 48 of Matt Cherry, who will lead us back to green flag here in just a moment. Pace car headed down pit road
green,
now. And there is the green flag, the 48 on the loud pedal. Pretty good restart by that outside groove. Look at Bilson there in the 51 machine trying to get to the back bumper of the number 27 of Shaw, trying to give him a shot here as they go off into turn number 1. Great restart for the outside line.
Absolutely. This is the first time all night that I can think of that outside line's basically had the advantage on the inside. That's got to be pretty frustrating for that 48 of Matt Cherry. But that Trevor Shaw with looks like some great help, and Paul Bilson behind him, they have quite a bit of momentum, and that outside line looks pretty well formed up, like they're going to have quite a bit of momentum. I was expecting that 27 to get maybe a little bit better of a run through the backstretch, but he is keeping steady with that 48 truck, getting a little bit of side draft. There we go. That's what I was talking about, that outside line, kind of using that air on the inside line to get a really good run down that short chute before they get into the tri-oval, as we have the white flag for these leaders.
And look at who has gotten out front. It is Trevor Shaw. There's a wreck in the back. The number 9 of Lorello goes around. The 35 to 50 involved. We'll keep our eyes focused on what's happening up here at the front. Definitely a big accident towards the back of the pack. Meanwhile, the 27 and the 51 doing battle up there at the front. We'll keep our eyes. Look at the 48. Huge block there, Drew, by that number 48 to get up in front of the 27. It's all to play for here as they're halfway down the back.
If I was that 48, I would cut it back to the inside line, but he is keeping in the middle. Oh, what a block, and they wreck behind him. It's going to be 2 drivers fighting for the victory. The 48, and he almost gets turned out of turn 4. Can the 48 hold on, or can Tim Hammond steal this one? Tim Hammond with the momentum, and he is going to take the checkered flag in a photo finish.
What a fantastic finish. Where did he come from? Tim Hammond wins the second Duel here at Daytona. Meanwhile, we still have drivers finishing further back in the pack, cars smoking across the start-finish line. Look at this, Drew. Hammond, Cherry, Guyvo, Muth, Shaw. I mean, what a crazy finish in this duel. There you see it right there on your screen of who comes home inside the top 10. I mean, we got some drivers like Lorello and Pendel, 9th and 10th, half a second behind your winner of Hammond. What a crazy finish. We'll see quickly, possibly if we can get a quick replay of that one. Unfortunately, as I say that, we cannot because we have advanced to the next session. We will have what is a brief race lined up here shortly for a little bit of fun. But, Drew, 2 spectacular Lynchburg duels here tonight. I mean, where did Hammond come from in that number 25 machine?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about him all night, and he comes out of what is essentially complete chaos on the last lap, gets a huge run out of turn 4, carries that momentum under that 48 truck, and takes the victory by 0.028 seconds. What a finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I want to see if we can possibly get an interview with Tim Hammond. Tim Hammond, Peter Short in the 3-Wide TV booth. Mr. Where did he come from? Tell us a little bit about that finish because that was crazy.
Listen, I can't even believe that happened. I was talking to my teammates the whole time, and I was telling them that I needed to get to that outside lane. And when I saw it finally open up because they started wrecking behind me, I just went up there, tried to find some space. I had a great run down the backstretch, and then I dove back to the inside, and they started beating and banging. I was like, well, this is it. I can get around this guy. And I tell you, I did not expect to pull that off.
Well, I'll tell you what. We've seen 2 fantastic Lynchburg duels here tonight. We thought race number 1 was awesome. Well, race number 2, again, awesome stuff. How important is it for you to pick up the win? I know there's a long race next week, Simbox 250. It's 250 miles, 100 laps. But how awesome is it to start off your season on a high like that?
As hard as it is to believe, I've probably not raced on iRacing since 2013. So this is actually technically my first time back trying to actually race. And to come out and win a race right off the bat to get us up front for the start of the Daytona next week, I'm really excited.
All right, Tim. Well, we have definitely coined a nickname for you. Mr. Where did he come from? You weren't even in iRacing a couple of weeks ago, and now you're 1 for 1. Very cool to hear that. Before we let you go, I know you got to go celebrate, and you have this fundraise coming up. Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I just got to give a shout out to Josh. He finished in, I want to believe, 3rd place in the first race, and Jeff Price. We're all going to be starting up there near the front, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be great to see you next week on the track for the Simbox 250. Best of luck next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well, that was Tim Hammond and Drew. Very, very impressive from that number 25 machine. He said it himself. He didn't really know where he came from, but getting that checkered flag in race number 2.
Absolutely. I can't imagine what was going through his mind when the seas parted in front of him and he had a huge run on that 48 truck and he just never lifted. No matter what the 48 did, whether it was throwing a block high, throwing a block low, that 25 just kept his foot in it and made it work and just eked it out across the line. I don't think I've ever had a finish quite like that, especially in a league race where I think it just matters a little bit more, right? When you're going to race these guys all the time, when you only have one opportunity a week, essentially, it's just you feel so accomplished when you get that type of thing done and you make all the right moves, all the right decisions. And that's exactly what Tim Hammond did on that last lap.
Absolutely. Got to give a huge shout out to some of the people in the chat. Yes, we're going to have another race lined up for you here shortly. We're going to throw them all out there on the racetrack. But we got, of course, Joshua Sobel. He's going to be getting in his race truck, I do believe. Tana Himmelman still sticking around. It says, okay, time to reset. I'm looking for Ben Adams and Andrew Himmelman to do big things in this race. We also have Will Worsler, one of the drivers that we broadcast in the ASRS series on Tuesday nights here on 3YTV. Make sure you check out some of those streams as well. Hope you're having a good evening here on 3YTV. Will, we got Taz Strip in the chat as well. We have Taz Racing Customs in the chat saying, great broadcasting, great. Guys, really enjoy the show. Thanks for jumping up in here. And of course, I mentioned them a little bit ago, but Taz Racing Customs, if you need a custom diecast of one of your iRacing cars or any car, go check them out. They're going to be sponsoring this season's Simbox Truck Series Biggest Mover Award. So pretty cool to have them on board in tonight's Lynchburg Duels here at Daytona. But Drew, looks like we got finally we got JT Poole back out there on the racetrack. So some of these drivers electing to stick around from heat number 1.
Absolutely, it's going to be interesting to see how many of these guys, in fact, take the grid out there. JT Poole definitely quick earlier on in his duel, but we're gridding them now, and we're going to see who all's sticking around. I know some of these guys, they have to be disappointed when you're running up front towards the end, and it can be hard to want to jump back in the truck, but sometimes that's the best thing that you can do, right? Is you kind of get put in a bad mood by not finishing where you want to finish. But rather than kind of be a little sour for the rest of the night, sometimes it's just good to get back out there and do another race and have a little bit of fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we're going to line them up. We'll see if Doug Neal and that number 77 machine, of course, he is the Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award winner for next week's Simbox 250. We'll see if he can jump out there on the racetrack for this little race that we have lined up. Unfortunately, so far he hasn't presented that machine. Only a couple of the drivers electing to do so. In fact, the first driver who is doing so is that number 14 machine of Jeff Price. So, since he's starting in second next week, and he's the only driver out there on the racetrack right now on the front row with Doug Neal, we'll kind of default and give him the Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award for this little bit of a fun race. And Drew, it's going to be another race here, another long one. 50 laps around Daytona, and we'll see if we throw them all out there on the racetrack right now and see if they can get things going, and hopefully we can get a lot of green flag action in this one.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see the mentality these drivers take towards this race because while the duels, they definitely didn't have points on the line, there were implications whether you made the 250, whether you started up front. There's no implications for this feature race. So are these guys just going to, have fun and go out there and be hyper aggressive? Or are they going to take it a little more, I don't want to say seriously, but a more calm approach, I guess, and more measured and see what they can do, really practicing for the 250 with this little bit of a longer race and a little bit bigger field, right? Like that's certainly the mentality I would take is, okay, now we have a little bit more energy in these lines, a little bit longer run. This is as close to the 250, Simbox 250 as we're going to get. Let's really see what we can do with strategy and drafting partners, etc.
Yeah, and of course, one of the big topics here tonight has been fuel mileage and playing that out. I'm sure, they took note of what the 48 of Cherry did in the second Lynchburg Duel, and maybe he can kind of, a lot of drivers might learn from that. But we'll have to see what happens here in these 50 laps. Looks like we have a couple of drivers starting, a couple of drivers not starting from earlier in the race. So that's why we weren't able to get you the starting lineup. But meanwhile, it does look like up at the front, the number 14 machine, a little bit out of camera shot there. But the number 14 machine on the outside, Chris Darling on the inside. We're green flag here for 50 laps.
Yeah, I really like the contrast of that 14 truck. It's a sharp looking scheme with that really bright yellow grille. Pretty calm start throughout the field. No major dramas. It looks like Chris Darling pretty calmly in the lead with that bottom line, but both lines actually being pretty calm and well formed. No big runs anywhere throughout the field. Side by side, essentially from first to last, as far as I can see. And going into turns 3 and 4, a bit of a slide from a lot of these guys. Kind of unexpected on the first lap. But is there a little bit of dust that you're seeing out there, or is that just my computer? It looks like there's almost a little bit of dust on the track, but that might be just me. No big deal.
Well, from that angle that I just saw, and I know you probably can't see it due to the compression of YouTube, But there was definitely some marbles getting thrown up on the racetrack. So I wonder if some of the track stay got carried over from race number 1, and it is a little bit slippery out there. We'll see if we can get the live timing and scoring updated for you. It's having a little bit of struggle with all the starters and non-starters. But yeah, definitely there's some dust. Oh, contact!
The whole field.
The yellow
That's
flag
going to
is
be the
out.
whole field. That's huge.
That is quite literally the whole field. Happened right up at the front. Car still getting in it. The 88 going upside down. And Drew, we're going to have to see exactly what happened here because this one started right up at the front of the field. Let's see if we can see this one from high atop with the blimp camera.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I really couldn't tell what happened. It happened so quick. Yeah, that 30 truck looks like he got turned by the truck on his outside. And then it's just a chain reaction. Cars going up towards the outside wall, cars going down towards the inside wall, and just nowhere to go for essentially the whole field once that chain reaction starts. Yeah, that is a huge wreck.
Some of the cars further back, like the number 22 machine, Owen Bridges right here. He's trying to get on the brakes, but into the back of Himmelman there in the number 4 machine. There aren't too many drivers who squeaked away without too much damage on this one. But one driver I really want to see in this accident, see if he made it through, is none other than Mr. Bad Luck himself, Paul Bilson, because he's had some good luck here over the last little bit. He did a little bit of contact there with the right front. I think that was spitting Chris Darling. But pretty good job there by Bilson to make it through that one. But that was pretty much the entire field, Drew, like you said.
I mean, when you just see those front 3 or 4 guys just kind of go in every direction, then there's nowhere there's no clear path, right? Not like when guys spin towards the inside, at least you can try to take the outside. But when there's just cars, I mean, it looks like marbles being thrown across the floor, just going every direction. There's just nowhere to go. Yeah, speaking of Paul Bilson, I mean, he got through that as well as essentially anybody. So maybe these last few incidents that we've seen, he's kind of gotten through them better than his previous luck would have dictated. So hopefully this is a bit of a turnaround for him.
He's going to come down pit road and use a fast repair. And folks, if you're watching in the chat and you're wondering about these fast repairs, well, we typically don't have fast repairs here in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. They were left on tonight, but I'm sure the whole field is glad they have them because, Drew, we might have been down to only 5 trucks after that first lap or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to give props to these guys because normally especially at these restrictor plate tracks, when you have unlimited fast repairs, you see basically people not using their heads, a level of aggression that is really unnecessary because guys are just saying, well, if I wreck it, I can just get a new truck. But I think for the most part, the wrecks that we've seen weren't from drivers making like irresponsible maneuvers with their trucks in regards to their competitors. It's more like a lot of net code, some incidents in the tri-oval, and just like kind of small judgment mistakes, but nothing egregious that we've seen. And so that's really awesome to see guys, I know I have this fallback, but I'm not going to just count on that to get me out of a bad situation. So again, props to these guys for taking that mentality.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen some fantastic racing here tonight out there on the racetrack. Definitely gets me hyped up for next week's Simbox 250. If the Lynchburg Duels had anything to say about what this season will bring, it's going to be pretty darn awesome, Drew. A lot of races, and all these drivers going to try and work their way towards the end of the season and try and walk away with some championship prizes. Got to give a huge shout out to Simbox for jumping on board. If you're watching right now in the chat and you're an iRacer, make sure you go check out Simbox PCs. I believe there's a link in the description here below. And you can go check that out. And after the race, I'm going to try and update the timestamps so you can actually go back and use YouTube's chapters feature, which is a fairly new feature to YouTube. So you can skip ahead to race number 1, race number 2, race number 3, and whatnot. But go check out Simbox PC and their button boxes, because some of their button boxes, Drew, they look really darn good. And, going into the season, I hadn't heard much about Simbox PCs and their button boxes in the iRacing community. So they're starting to get out there. Their products look fantastic. You see a lot of button boxes out there, and you think, oh man, that's a button box that has 9 buttons. That's overpriced for what you pay. From what I have seen, Simbox PC puts together a quality product at a fantastic price point. If you need more buttons, Andrew, who doesn't need more buttons for their sim rig? Whether it's a desk or sim rig or what, more buttons is always helpful for, you know, adjusting your brake bias or whatnot. So definitely go give them a shout out. I believe there's a link in the description. They're on Facebook, Simbox PC, facebook.com/Simbox PC. So go check them out. But the pace car lights are off here, Drew. We're about to get set to go back to green flag action. You can definitely see some of the dust that's out there on the racetrack right now.
Yeah, it's pretty unexpected is that 93 truck, which, by the way, I'm a sucker for really bright kind of solid colored trucks, and that 93 truck, that bright orange, that is fantastic. I know both of our chosen universities sport a similar orange, so it's a pretty good looking 93 truck as he leads them back down, and there is still so much dust. I was expecting it to be fairly cleaned off, as that is an aggressive move there. Oh, and we got another wreck. That's going to be no caution so far.
And that's the number 60 machine there spinning in the back. That's the number 13 machine that's also gone around, spinning back up the racetrack. That's the number 13 driven by Jordan Schepler. We saw him in heat number 1. The number 60, Matt Vander Kooi, was also involved in that. Also looks like Joshua Sobel right there, the number 30 machine. He also had to check up, so he's lost the main pack. But somehow we stay green flag here at Daytona as we cross the stripe with 44 to go.
Yeah, iRacing can be so fickle with their yellow flags. There can be something that is a fairly mundane car just sideways, like not even crashing, just like getting really sideways to the corner, and they throw yellow. And then you have a full-blown multi-car wreck like we just saw. No yellow flag. So I know the guys that are in that are going to be very disappointed, but I think that this is really going to lead to a probably much calmer last 40-plus laps of this race, because this field is severely whittled down with, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 cars in the lead pack, with another multi-car pack shortly behind them. And they're still side by side in this lead pack, but I mean, they could only go 3 wide, a couple cars deep at this point, with that 93 of Roger Muth leading this field.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a little bit of a 4-car group behind this main pack. They're trying to do everything they can to catch the lead group, but right now, like you said, Roger Muth in that number 93 machine is leading the way over Jeff Price. Look at Bill Edwards, Drew, in the number 50. He had some rotten luck in the second of the Lynchburg Duels, but now he finds himself up inside the top 5. The number 4, Andrew Himmelman, sitting there in the 4th position. Remember, he had some tough luck in the first of the Lynchburg Duels. Then you have Ullery in the 62. He had to make that late pit stop in the second duel. What has he learned? Has he learned from that mistake? Can he get himself up towards the front here? So seeing some of the same players we saw earlier, Drew, but some of those players had some rotten luck earlier and trying to bounce back in this one.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing quite a few guys that I believe did not, unfortunately, make the 250 that are definitely taking advantage of these, you know, this extra racing that we're bringing to you here on 3 Wide TV. It's got to be fun just to go out there, have not a lot of pressure, especially having avoided the chaos that was this last restart. And now you've given yourself a really, really good shot to have a lot of fun and try to snag one of these fun race wins.
Yeah, absolutely. You see there on the ticker, it's really a 9-car breakaway. Then you have about 3 cars, Clavey, Bridges, and Snare a little bit further back. And then it is an even bigger gap back to your reigning Simbox PC Truck Series champion right there, Mitchell Adams. And then you find the number 5 of Ben Adams just a little bit further back. So really the field broken up, 16 trucks still on the lead lap. We have had a couple of cars who have taken it to the garage in this one. A couple of cars down there around the 26th position on back DNS'd in this one. But meanwhile, Bill Edwards, he had dropped back a couple of truck lengths on that outside just a lap or two ago, Drew, and now he's come back with a push from the number 26 machine of JT Poole, who was very, very fast in the first Lynchburg Duel.
Absolutely. I've really seen that strategy really play out with these trucks is if you lay back and kind of give a car link to the truck in front of you within the next set of corners. Like if you do it going into turn one, by the exit of two, you're going to have a huge run on that truck in front of you. We saw Chris Darling utilize that move to snag the victory in duel number one. And we just saw that 50 of Bill Edwards use that same tactic to snag the lead here in this fun feature race.
Yeah, absolutely. And Edwards right there in that number 50 machine, leading the way off into turn number 3. Things starting to calm down just a little bit up at the front as we almost go single file. A couple stragglers right there in the back. Number 35 of Mac right there in the 9th position. Now the number 2 of Justin White pokes out right in front of the 26, and Drew, the 26 had gotten almost to the front, but he kind of got hung out to dry on the high line, got shuffled back, and now he's going to have to recycle himself up to the front, if you will. That's kind of how things go here at Daytona. You just kind of recycle your way through the field, and hopefully you get up to the front right at the end.
Absolutely, and with this fairly small front pack and what seems to be like the significant changes in momentum with these trucks, I don't think it's going to be too difficult to shuffle your way from, what is it, P9th, essentially the tail end of this front pack, and try to get back up to the lead. I don't think that'll be too challenging as long as you're smart with your runs. The problem is I never want to be that last truck in this front pack, because all it takes is kind of one miscalculation with lifting off, and you can really easily lose the draft. And that's what would make me nervous if I was that 62 truck right now, as the 50 gets spun going into turn one. Oh, we got a wreck. That should bring out a caution.
So far, no caution. Well, how did this all happen? Still no caution. But we're going to have to see this one here on the replay. It happened a little bit further in front. We'll see what happened here with the number 93 right behind the number 50. Huge push there. The leaders were catching some lap traffic, and the number 93 ducks below the 50 of Edwards, and looks like the 50 might have come down a little bit. The 26 also getting involved. Still no caution here at Daytona. We'll go back and see if we get one more look exactly at what happened here. We're going to see if we can take this one down to slow-mo. And Drew, you can see the number 93. He ducks down low, but the 50 comes down to block, and there's that contact.
Yeah, oh, and we have a caution on track.
Oh, so just like that, finally, a caution flag comes out. So we'll have to find out whether or not it was for this, or whether something else has happened out there on the racetrack. But we'll see if we can bring back to live, and you see the number 93 machine trying to catch this man right here, Aaron Mack, who was your race leader. And I'm just going to have a quick peek and see if we can see if something else did actually happen.
Yes,
And,
I think if you go to...
yeah, here we go. You can see it right here. Coming down into turn number 1, a little bit of a nudge, possibly a little bit of neck code there, Drew, as we had another accident. Now, let's see if we can get another look at that one, but definitely another accident happened there.
Yeah, it looks like the 27 and the 2 were just so tight. And we've seen net code fairly consistently tonight, and we'll see if that's the case here. Yeah, maybe they do touch a little bit. I don't know if that initial contact was actually there, or if there was a bit of net code, but I think that second contact that really sent that 2 to the outside wall definitely happened. And it's unfortunate to go under yellow for a lot of these guys, but I'm sure the rest of the field that was involved in those previous incidents that seemingly was less severe than this one are glad that yellow came out.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're going to be able to catch back up to the lead pack, which will definitely make them a little bit happier. Because, of course, they want to race. This is a fun race. They're out there having fun and winding down after those 2 very eventful Lynchburg duels that we had a little bit ago here on 3 Wide TV. Got to give a huge shout out to some of the people still joining us here in the chat. The Windsors still rooting on Bill here tonight. I believe that is Bill Paulson, the Let's see if you can clarify that, the Windsors. Are you rooting for Bill Paulson or Bill Edwards, or are you just a fan of people named Bill? That's, of course, also possible. I mean, you know, maybe you just like Bills. I like Bills. Usually the ones. We're all thinking along the same lines here. We're trying to say the same thing. We like Bills, just the ones that have 100 written on them.
Green ones, not the ones you get in the mail, unless they're the green ones. Absolutely.
Well, here, Bill Edwards in the number 15 machine is actually leading the way. There he is getting back out there onto the racetrack. We did see a couple of cars come down pit road here, and just now we're working their way back out onto the racetrack, including that man right there. Colin Hillary in the number 62 will be the second car off pit road, I do believe, once everything cycles through. There you see the number 60. And Drew, we're trying to figure out, who's getting back on the lead lap. I believe this man right here, the number 23, is your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner as he gets his way back up to the back of the pack. So we will have 16 trucks on the lead lap when we go back to green flag here shortly. And hopefully it is pretty shortly because the pace car lights are still on. But now that we're in the middle of the ball, let's see if we can possibly dial up some of the other drivers that we still have out there on the racetrack. Kind of going down the list. Let's see if we can possibly dial up the man who's down there in the 8th position, the War Faction Racing number 27. Trevor Shaw, Peter Shorten, 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, I'll tell you what, up here in the booth, you guys are putting on a show out there on the racetrack for sure. That's what's going on with me. But you're out there right now. We got a caution finally, and that number 27 machine looks pretty fast here tonight. Tell us a little bit about your night, going back to the duels and all that stuff.
Oh, we're having a pretty good night. We kind of missed a bunch of races last year, so we didn't get locked in, and just kind of wanted to come out and see what we could do. It's been a long time since we've strapped into the War Faction Chevy truck, and I love this track. They slowed him down a little bit, but it's been a good night. Just wanted a good showing, and I think besides that last lap issue, I think we had a good showing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like the draft here tonight is pretty big. Tell us about how you've adjusted to how big of a hole these trucks punch.
Oh, I just kind of drove it like I always have, just kind of getting up, trying to not push the pusher and trying to help the guy in front of me and not be too aggressive. You know, it's a big track. There's a lot of laps. Can't get too aggressive too quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the green flag about to come out. Good luck here in this fun race, Trevor, and we hope to see you back here on 3 Wide TV next week.
Yeah, you'll see me every Friday night.
All right, well, folks, that was the number 27 machine of Trevor Shaw. We did have a question in the chat from Maverick asking who is driving the red Wrangler truck. Well, that is the number 22 machine, and we'll see if we can bring up that number 22 machine right there, because that is Owen Bridges in that race car right there. You can see he's currently running in that second position right here and pacing around. And Drew, looks like we're going to go back to green flag racing here in just a second.
Green flag.
We have quite a few guys now up towards the front after what was kind of a chaotic, fairly short green flag run. A bunch of guys up here that we haven't really seen much. 49 of Mitchell Adams. Obviously, he has been up front quite a bit in his truck series career. But I don't recall seeing the 22 or the 35 of Aaron Mack really being this far forward previously. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys fare with their forward position in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And that number 22 machine of Owen Bridges going to jump now down in front of that number 35 machine. Not 100% sure what's up with the ticker. We're going to have to talk to my regular producer and figure out what exactly is going on with the Mr. Ticker. And maybe it just needs a lap to sort itself out. So we'll check it here shortly. But that number 49 machine, Mitchell Adams, your reigning champion here in the Simbox Truck Series, jumping himself up to the front. And Drew, I think that's the first time we see Mitchell Adams out front here tonight.
Absolutely, getting a strong push by that 27 truck as they both kind of go back to the inside. 27, a little bit more than the 49, as he is going to look to take that lead for himself. Mitchell Adams might only get one lap led, as we got a truck below the yellow line, and then he blends back in. No problems there. But 2x2 throughout the entire field, as it looks like pretty much everybody who's on track's going to be in that main pack. There's still quite a bit of dust being picked up, especially towards the back on that higher lane. That is, I was really surprising at first. I thought that there was somebody maybe having a bit of like net code kind of, you know, when guys blink in and out and they throw up tire smoke, but it definitely seems to be real smoke out there, or real dust, that is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as you see these cars working their way around the racetrack, definitely, you know, they're having to contend with that dust just a little bit, especially coming out of, it seems like turn number 3 and turn number 4 are the worst.
Absolutely, as we're coming down on the backstretch, the 49 throwing quite a bit of a block on that 2 truck. As it looks like Mitchell Adams is really looking to keep that lead from that 2 of Justin White. And we're still 2x2 throughout most of this field, as the 39 truck with a good run on the outside. That is Stan Hausman. And he is going to be contesting this lead unless that 49 truck decides to throw a block. He doesn't. Oh, they get a little bit out of shape. But right before they get into turn 1, it looks like everybody kind of gets back underneath themselves. But that was a little bit of a moment for that 39 truck. But he has gathered it back up, and he is side by side with Mitchell Adams, our series champion and race leader this last time by. But I don't think it's going to be for too much longer there, Peter.
Yeah, folks, I don't exactly know what's gone wrong with the ticker. It's saying it's got everyone in the right positions. Not 100% sure. I tried restarting our software to see if that would fix it. It did not. So bear with us with that one. But meanwhile, the number 39 of Hausman out front right now, leading as, the number 27 there going below the yellow line. And another lap ticks by, and finally, the intervals board finally decides to start working there, Drew. So that's good omen. As the number 22 right there towards the middle of the pack. We'll see if we can possibly jump on board with that number 22 machine here shortly. But so far, we're green and have 29 laps to go.
Absolutely, and it's again what we've seen for most of tonight, with this pretty consistent side by side throughout the pack, as the 26 dives it down. JT Poole taking that lead back in that Ricky Bobby inspired Simbox truck. But man, these guys are really riding that apron hard. As we're 3 wide, there's another wreck. The 50 around. Is that going to bring out a caution? I think he saves it, but that's a hard impact to the outside wall, as that truck's going to come back in front of. Wow, that was a great job. What was it, the 62 that slammed on his brakes? That was a great job by Ullery there.
We'll just have to see what exactly happened here with the number 62 machine, because I'll tell you what, there's the accident that happens. We had one car shoot down across the grass. I think that was possibly the number 35 of Aaron Mack. And yeah, the 62 just did a fantastic job there of slamming on his brakes. You see it right there. Let's see if we can get one more look at that one while we still can here on the 3-wide TV replay. And yeah, there you go. You saw it right there, Drew. You called that one. Fantastic job.
The yellow flag
Huge
is
wreck.
out.
The 93 cartwheeling out of the catch fence. Oh my goodness.
You mean right on board right now with Ullery, and you can see all that madness happening. He's going to try and get through it Days of Thunder style. And we're definitely going to have to watch that one on the replay here, because I didn't exactly see what happened. But from what I do know, that was a huge accident happening out front. And it ended up with a lot of cars involved. So let's see if we can dial up this replay right here. Looking at the front of the pack, it happened right at the front. The 93 and the 43 getting together. And Drew Muth right there cartwheeling against the outside wall. That is definitely not what you want to see.
He's doing his Bodine impression from the original Daytona race, if I'm not mistaken. That was a dramatic crash and flip by that 93 of Roger Muth. Wow, and again, we're talking another wreck that essentially took out the whole field minus a couple of the leaders.
The number 13 machine went on quite a ride as well. Oh man, got hit right there at the end, I think, by the number 5 of Adams. We'll see exactly what happened to the number 13 machine here. Let's see if we can go with a little bit of the gyro cam. We'll see if we can slow this down. Watch the number 43 right in front of him. There's the contact. He gets into the back of him a little bit, and then the 13 just gets launched down into the car below him, and still up in the air, Drew, until he comes back down to earth. I mean, that is a huge, huge accident here with now just about halfway.
I think we're starting to see the fun race mentality a little bit as this race is worn on. I mean, that wasn't an egregious wreck. We're just kind of seeing guys pushing a little too hard, which is, I think, what happened there between the 43 and the 93. I think the 43 just grabbed his bumper just a little bit, hooked him, and then, I mean, everyone behind him. What are you going to do when there's cars spinning right in front of the whole field? Not much you can do, especially with the brakes that we've talked about here at Daytona. But yeah, I think that is definitely, man, there's some hard impacts in that wreck as I'm watching the replay again. Yeah, I think we're just seeing guys having fun with it and definitely taking that exhibition mentality.
Well, the one good thing for these drivers involved in these accidents is the fact that there is unlimited fast repairs in this race. So you won't see that next week in the Simbox 250. So these drivers get a little bit of luxury here tonight with fast repairs. But next week, going to be a completely different ball game if that happens, Drew.
Absolutely, and I think that we saw in the duels that they didn't take it like too much of that for granted with the fast repairs. Because if you blow your engine, you don't make it back to pit lane, your race is essentially over, right? And there were so many guys that weren't locked in that definitely wanted to race in the Simbox 250 next Friday night that I think that we saw a lot of these guys really take that serious approach where that is definitely kind of your mulligan card where you get to have a do-over. But definitely when there's not those kind of heavy potential consequences of this fun race here at the end of those duels, I think we're seeing them take, and I mean, I'm definitely not blaming them. I'm just calling it as I see it, right? That they're taking more of this fun race mentality where they're just going out and going full bore and whatever will be, will be.
And, you know, they do have that luxury to go out there and have some fun. Daytona's one of those racetracks where, you know, it is fun to get out there and do a little bit of super speedway racing. I know a lot of drivers, they don't always like doing it when it comes to a championship season, right? It's a long race. It's a little bit of a crapshoot, if you will. But when you're out there on the racetrack, there's nothing on the line. You can go out there and have some fun. It can be really enjoyable, regardless, whether you're a super speedway fan or not. I personally, I'm not the biggest fan of super speedways. You know, some drivers like them, some drivers absolutely abhor them. But, you know, you get out there, you have some fun, like what they're doing right now here on 3Wide TV. And we're going to have another green flag in the air here shortly, so they're going to have a little bit more fun. Got to give a huge shout out to Maverick in the chat, rooting on the number 22 machine of Owen Bridges, currently sitting in P2 in the number 22, so deuces are wild right now. Christopher Darling saying that literally looked like the Bodine wreck. What a wreck. Yeah, we had a couple cars flipping, cartwheeling on the safer barrier. How often do you see that at Daytona? More often in iRacing than real life, thank goodness. iRacing has some interesting flying physics, we'll put it that way. It's not Flight Simulator 2020, that comes out next week. But the green flag is flying here at Daytona, and the number 49, Mitchell Adams, your reigning series champion, out front.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. We are back under green here, a fairly calm restart. And can you imagine what that wreck would have looked like with the new damage model? Come on, iRacing, let's get that. Maybe we really could have recreated that original truck race with Mr. Bodine deciding he didn't need any sheet metal on his truck.
I'll tell you what, I will remember the first time I saw that accident, I thought, how on earth did he get out of that race truck alive? Definitely Daytona can be a pretty scary place, but it's not a scary place right now for the 22 of Owen Bridges because he is going to cut down in front of Mitchell Adams and take the race lead away from that 49 truck. But here comes the number 26 Simbox machine once again, Drew, making some noise up there towards the front.
Absolutely, and despite these fast repairs, we have seen the field really whittled down at this point. We have, I mean, it must be just over 10, 12 cars out there mixing it up, but we still have a really, really, really close pack here and a bunch of guys that were up front during both of the duels, right? The 26 truck up there a ton, the 23 truck up there a ton, the 27 truck, the 62 truck. We have a bunch of fast guys left here, and they are all side by side with some aggressive pushing with the 49 of Mitchell Adams getting a little out of shape right before he enters turn 3 and 4, trying to get that 22 a run to maybe clear that 26 truck, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Yeah, that number 26 machine on that high groove getting that big run. The 50 getting really tight with Bridges, and the 50 in the outside wall once again. We've seen that a couple times here tonight. That's Bill Edwards right now, and he's dropping way back, and Drew, he's going to lose a draft here.
Yeah, and we've seen that 50 be pretty aggressive here in this fun race. Not so much in the duels, but he's definitely made some aggressive moves, and he was really, really, really tight on that other truck's door through the tri-oval, and that's what can happen in iRacing, right? There's no gentle touches at Daytona with these trucks here.
Oh, yeah, nothing like that, and we're right on board with the number 50 as the field just drives away from him. Here we go, up at the front once again. JT Poole has gotten himself to the race lead. So far in this fun race, the number 93 of Muth has led the most laps, but he's not out there on the racetrack anymore. Then you find a couple of other drivers. Oh, contact again,
Flag is out.
and I do believe that is the number 35 machine. It is Aaron Mack who's gone on his side. We'll see what happened here on this replay, because I'll tell you what, that once again was a little bit of contact up towards the front of the field, and we'll get this lined up for you. You can't really see what happened there, but I believe the number 23 machine was up there, Drew, and there was just a little bit of contact.
Yeah, it's just kind of hard racing that we've kind of seen. Guys really pushing the issue, not giving a ton of room. Yeah, it's just I think it's pretty much what you described, right? Like that's just one of those deals at Daytona. It's not the first time that's happened, and it certainly won't be the last.
Yeah, I got a couple of looks of it there. Luckily, not all too many trucks damaged from this one. Meanwhile, back up the front, it is the number 26 machine of JT Poole, who continues to lead. Got Ford power for that number 26. Ricky Bobby Scheme, like you mentioned there, Drew. And gotta say, definitely been one of the strong contenders here tonight. Expected to see him strong in next week's Simbox 250.
Absolutely. I'm actually kind of surprised we didn't see more Fords, right? Like that definitely is an iRacing phenomenon, right? That whenever you have a new car, right? When the BMW GTE came out, you didn't see a whole lot of Ferraris and other cars. It was mostly the BMW. So the Ford being, a fairly, very recent, in fact, release, I was expecting, 3/4 of the field to be Ford. But I think that especially in this paved oval racing, you see manufacturer allegiances with drivers be a little tighter than you do see in the oval and dirt side. So maybe it shouldn't be too surprising, but I was expecting to see a few more Fords in the field. But it's, again, so good to have that brand represented in iRacing.
We do see a couple of trucks headed down pit road here, Drew. 20 laps to go. And based off of what we saw in the Lynchburg Duels earlier, this is that point where they can come down pit road and almost make it to the end on fuel. So we'll have to see how these things, pan out towards the end.
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to have too much of a problem with fuel mileage here based on the trends of this race so far. But if it does go green, these guys who have stayed out, I think are going to really struggle to make the end of this race. I believe the 23 had damage under that last caution, so he must have pitted right when the caution came out. So I anticipate him dropping back to the rear. But it looks like it's going to be the 22, the 39, and the 60 that have stayed out. And we will see how it pays how this plays out for those three drivers. We have not seen a whole lot of Matt Vander Koy out there. Koy, my apologies for that pronunciation, but he looks like he is going to be up front for the first time. That is a really cool gold truck. These spec maps, man, every time I see them, they just look fantastic. Right, that previously you would have had to use some shading layer of something to get that gold effect. That looks really cool with the way that spec map makes that gold really pop.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you see that truck out there right now, 49 right behind him. And we'll see if the number 60 dives down. It looks like also the number 39 of Houseman coming down pit road as well. So a couple of these drivers elected to come down a little bit later, Drew, and maybe they're thinking about that play towards the end, trying to get just a little bit extra fuel on board those trucks so they don't run out, because we saw at the end of the first Lynchburg Duel here tonight that 2 trucks ran out of fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the way this race has been trending, I would be more surprised than not to see a green-white checkered. And if it does, I mean, I think even with 18 to go, I think that this is right on the edge of being able to make it. If there is another caution, I would definitely pit again, just so there's no potential for running out of gas. But we'll see. I think the rest of these guys that didn't come by this last time are going to be mega close. I definitely don't think that 22 truck can make it, because we know he didn't pit under this caution. But the rest of the guys that pitted a lap earlier, I mean, if there's several guys that were really close to the front that felt the need to pit, I'm surprised that more guys didn't do it, right? So we'll see how this strategy plays out. But I definitely think that 22 truck rather is counting on cautions for the to make it on fuel for the rest of this race.
Yeah, and to be fair, if we bring up the race details down there, well, I gotta say, that doesn't seem exactly right either. It says we've only had 2 cautions. I can tell you, folks, that is not correct. We've had more. I do know why it says we've only had 2 cautions. I did restart our system to see if we could fix the ticker issue. Unfortunately, it seemed like that did not exactly work. So we've had multiple cautions. We've had 2 cautions here over the last couple laps. The race car headed down pit road. How's it all going to work out for that number 22 machine up there at the front? We'll find out as the green flag flies once again.
Absolutely, and Mitchell Adams on his outside. We'll see, can this outside line with only 4 cars in it right now, or 4 trucks rather, can they get a run and try to clear this 22 truck? Mitchell definitely has some momentum through 1 and 2, but that 22 is gaining a little bit back on him. Oh, he gets real loose on exit though, and that's probably going to cost him quite a bit of momentum. But that inside line stacked up pretty well, but that can sometimes lead to strange pushes that send trucks in directions that they weren't previously going, as we've seen tonight. But they get that all sorted out, and it's pretty even on these 2 lanes. 5 trucks on the inside, 5 trucks on the outside, and the momentum is pretty even as well, as here comes that outside line back on the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. That number 22 machine of Owen Bridges trying to pull that inside line, but the number 49 of Mitchell Adams gonna lead that lap up at the front. Trevor Shaw in the number 27 right behind him, trying to push him along. Then the number 5 of Ben Adams back there. Pretty much we're now down to about 12 trucks out there, I do believe, Drew, out there on the racetrack. The number 60 right there, Matt Vander Koy, the last car running in the 12th position. Mitchell Snare in the number 11. There he is also out there on the racetrack right now. So we have a couple of drivers, still out there plugging along, still having fun in this race that we have going on here at Daytona International Speedway in preparation for next week's Simbox 250. But once again, that number 49 of Mitchell Adams leading the way across the start-finish line.
And I believe we lost potentially another one from that lead pack. That 39 truck dipped down to pit lane. Not clear as to what the reasoning is behind that. But up front, we're still 2 by 2 by 2. And this is something I actually wanted to bring up earlier, and I was about to get into. And unfortunately, we had an on-track ordeal that prevented me from talking it, but how difficult it is, or it can be, to follow the line of the car in front of you on the outside line, because you don't have that reference like you do on the inside. On the inside, you know that driver, kind of where they're going to turn in, that they're going to hug that yellow line, and all you got to kind of do is look in that little gap in the window net and really just guide your car along that yellow line. On the outside line, you never know. Are they going to hold that inside line down? Are they going to keep it out wide? When are they going to turn in? And so keeping that truck right up on the rear bumper of the other truck to keep that momentum up can be really challenging on the outside line.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Still trying to fix some of the gremlins possibly here on 3. Oh, contact! The number 27 machine has
Caution,
gone
yellow
around.
flag.
Caution flag is back in the air. And Drew, I think this is what that number 22 machine was hoping for. And as you see, the number 27 looks like he's going to get back going. Looks like there might have been contact with the number 60 machine as he gets back going. But we're going to go back and catch this one here on the 3-wide TV replay here in just a moment. Here we go. Dialed it back just a little bit. And watch that number 27 up there on the high groove there, Drew. A little bit of help from the number 5.
Yeah, it looks like just a little tap, maybe a bit of a checkup on exit, and then the 5 truck got in the back of the 27, which sent him down into the 60. Not a huge wreck. Checking up is so hard to do. Especially in the corner, on exit, you cannot see through the truck in front of you. These things do not have that Lexan spoiler that we're seeing in some of the higher divisions of oval racing. So definitely kind of one of those Daytona stack-up deals, but probably still frustrating for the number 27 nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to get back going. And that number 22 machine of Owen Bridges, I think he's going to come down pit road here, Drew. We know that he could not make it on fuel in that truck right there. So undoubtedly he's going to be on pit road here, but I'm wondering who else he's going to drag down pit road.
It's I don't anticipate we're going to see too many stops under this yellow unless guys just feel like pitting. I don't think there's a lot of strategic reasons for anyone but the 22 to really pit. But we'll see, because most of these guys have pitted recently, and maybe they're anticipating worst case scenarios with green flag checkers here at the end of the race. But we'll see, and we'll see how that shakes up the field. There's only 10 cars on the lead lap, including the 27 truck, who I believe is on pit lane, or is catching the field. He's right behind the 60 now. So we'll see what these guys do here in just a couple seconds, essentially, as they exit turn 4 and are looking to come down pit road. Will that 22 make the move? He's weaving back and forth. Yes, he does. He makes that hard left turn to pit road, and then quite a few guys significantly behind him will also take that path down pit road as well.
Yeah, the 22 overshot his pit box, drove through it there just a little bit. So we'll have to see how that affects him. Meanwhile, the number 26 machine of JT Poole out there on the racetrack. Meanwhile, Hausman, remember we saw him just a little bit ago out there. He's going to get the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award, get one of his laps back, and see whether or not he can mount a charge back up through the field. And not 100% sure why he came down pit road, but that man right there, JT Poole, is your current race leader as things continue to cycle on through. But we're going to have about 10 laps to go here in just a little bit, Drew. So about another 10-lap shootout here. We've pretty much had 3 10-lap shootouts at Daytona here tonight.
And it's that trend has come to be accurate. So yeah, we'll see. That 26 truck has been so strong both in the duels and in this race. And then the 62, right? We've seen so many of these guys that were up front, or just very strong competitors in general, stay up front through a fairly chaotic fun race. And I really think we're going to see Colin Ulrey in that 62 and JT Poole in that 26. I don't think they're going anywhere, especially with the unique fast repair options. Unless they can't get back to pit road, it looks like these guys are pretty dedicated to trying to win this fun race.
Absolutely. Pace car lights are on for now. We'll have to see how things sort out here in just a brief moment. and whether or not we get to go back to green flag action here in just a lap, and the pace car lights have turned off. So we will have a 10-lap sprint here at Daytona, 25 miles around the 2.5-mile World Center of Racing here in Daytona Beach, Florida. The number 26, JT Poole, been fast all night long. Will lead us back to green. Colin Ulery also been fast all night long in the 62. And Drew, we got the 26 and the 62 on the front row. So kind of backwards numbers, if you will, from one another, but both have been very fast. Mitchell Adams, Joshua Sobel rounding out your top 4. Bill Edwards, Ben Adams, 5th and 6th. Trevor Shaw, Mitchell Snare, Owen Bridges, Aaron Mack rounding out your top 10. And then Stan Hausman and Matt Vander Kooy are the drivers out back. So the caution lights are off. We're going to get set to go back to green flag racing here, Drew, halfway down the back. And I would like to see if we can get an interview with the driver. Probably a bit too late for that, but I'm sure all these drivers out there having a good time here in this little bit of a fun race.
Absolutely. And we definitely have seen them. I think a lot of these guys are really trying to see what they can get away with in the Daytona the Simbox 250 at Daytona next Friday night, and maybe that's what's kind of led to a little bit more of a chaotic race than we've seen in the two duels. But I mean, these guys are definitely finding the limit of what these trucks will and will not tolerate, and they're probably going to learn from that and be able to apply that to next Friday night.
Absolutely. Well, the pace car going to dive down on pit road here. We're going to go back to green flag action, and it will be the number 26 machine getting us back to green flag action. Huge jump though by that by the outside line. The inside line all of a sudden fell apart, and that outside groove, the number 26 machine to the outside right there, gonna get a big jump. So Ulery gonna go up to the front here. Adams into second, and then here comes Bill Edwards in the number 50 machine right there. Going to have a quick peek and see if something might have happened a little bit further back here on this restart, because I'll tell you what, there was definitely a couple of jostling around. Well, I thought I saw it. I did not. Back up to the front. The number 62 of Ulery continues to lead over the number 49. And then they're side by side now for the position a little bit further back. Look at Hausman there, Drew, starting to work his way back up towards the front. Remember, he in that race truck was a couple laps down just a few laps ago.
Yeah, absolutely. He made that green flag pit stop earlier that cost him that massive amount of track position. But he is back in it now on the lead lap, leading the outside line. It's just not very well formed right now. But typically when you get to that third or fourth vehicle on the inside line, when you're leading the outside line, they make just enough of a wake in the air to where as long as you keep it a little bit tight on them, you can typically hold on and stop losing positions, just because they typically don't stay perfectly in line, and you can kind of not quite side draft, but almost to a different scale, right? Because they're punching such a big hole that's not just the width of the truck. You tend to get a little bit of that wake as well, but it doesn't look like that outside line's really holding on as they're slipping back behind that 5 truck of Ben Adams.
Yeah, that number 62 machine out front definitely leading. Ooh, almost. I saw one truck there sliding through the trial, Drew. I couldn't quite tell who it was, but it was close there to being an accident.
I believe that 39 truck got really sideways, and then kind of when he got sideways, other guys made avoiding actions, and as we've seen in that trial, there's just not a lot of grip. And so we saw a couple trucks slide around, but luckily everyone was able to keep it underneath them.
And folks, after getting some words from my co-producer, supposedly there is an issue with iRacing going around that does lose the gap, the relative gap between cars. That's the issue that the software is having right now. So that's the reason for the intervals issue on the left-hand side of your screen. The positions are right, however. It is being updated, just the the actual time delta between the cars is not being sent to the software from the iRacing simulator, so we'll have to see if we can get that ironed out over this week. Meanwhile, Ullery up at the front as we continue to ride on board with the number 39 machine of Hausman, who've ridden on board for a lap here. And Drew, I think this gives a great indication to the people watching just how crazy it is as you see him get into the back of the number 43 of Mitchell Snare.
Absolutely. You can see how quickly you can get a run on somebody, slow down, and then get another run because they're checking up for the trucks in front of them. Just to go back to the scoring thing, wait, you're telling me that we haven't been hallucinating for the last 40-something laps and that the 62 truck's not the only one to complete laps, essentially? That's crazy.
So what it's doing is right now it's thinking every single driver is at the exact same spot on the racetrack, somehow exactly on 45 laps. So it's basically telling me that all those drivers have completed 45 laps. We have 5 laps to go. So it's more so telling you what lap the drivers are on rather than a relative spot. By the contact, the 27 and the 35 have come together there. They keep things going straight. Look at the 22 of Owen Bridges getting up out of the group. And I'll tell you what, that number 22 machine, good save by him. But we're coming to just 4 laps to go for the number 62 machine.
Yeah, a bit of argy-bargy, as one particular sports car broadcast announcer would say, but a good job and all drivers involved to keep those vehicles under control. But that's given quite a bit of a gap to these top 3 trucks and that 62, 49, and 26 out there. I don't think, obviously, they're going to be able to hold on to it as it closes back up, but that's going to draw that inside line forward and really penalize those guys on the outside line, as we've seen.
Yeah, and let's keep an eye on Colin Ullery leading over your reigning Simbox Truck Series champion there, Mitchell Adams. Is Adams just trying to line up a pass to get the checkered flag here? Adams has led 7 laps in this 50-lap fun feature. As looks like Hausman back there in the 39 machine got a little bit too close to Bridges in the number 22 machine. Now we're starting to see the 43 machine, Mitchell Snare, on the outside groove. He's trying to make a charge up to the front with just 3 laps to go.
Yeah, it's just not a ton of time for that. That outside lane really needs to form and get some momentum now, right? Because there's just, 3 laps is not a ton of time unless we see 2nd, 3rd, and 4th kind of jump to the outside. Then all of a sudden it's a different ball game. But there's another almost incident. 39 truck had to check up quite a bit, and that will actually probably pull that outside line up quite a bit. And JT Poole shows his nose just a bit to the outside, and here we go. JT Poole to the outside of that 49 truck of Mitchell Adams. He's going to be looking to take the lead for himself. What will that 62 truck do? Fade to the outside. He's going to try to play both lanes. That usually doesn't end well, and it almost doesn't, as he is a little bit of contact between JT Poole and then that 62 of Colin Ullery, but he's able to keep the lead. Just broke that outside's momentum just enough. Goes back to the inside and retains the lead. Aggressive block. Really risky, but paid off in that example.
It will be white flag this time. Mitchell Adams all over the back bumper of that number 62 machine. He's giving him a shot down the backstretch. Is he trying to push that number 62 machine too far out front, Drew, so that the outside line can get a run that Mitchell Adams can possibly jump to the high side? We'll have to wait and see, because it's going to be white flag this time for the number 62 of Ullery, leading over Adams. 1 lap to go in this fun race.
I really like the position that Mitchell Adams in that 49 blue and orange trucks put himself in. I just, I don't know. That outside line, it's forming up slowly, but what will that 49 do? He has to commit now if he's going to go to the outside. He doesn't, and the 62 instead does. Will they force it 3 wide? There's a wreck behind, but it doesn't matter. It's the white flag lap. That 26 of JT Poole gets a run to the outside of the 62, but they're 2x2 on the bottom versus JT Poole all by his lonesome on the outside. That 49 and Mitchell Adams pushing that 62. He's still in a great position. He's my pick at this point in the last lap, Pete.
Yeah, Ullery right there, though, has a fantastic run coming out of the corner. Adams going to try and do something on the high side. They're going to be side by side to the line. It's the number 62 of Ullery comes across the start-finish line and takes home the win in this 50-lap fun race. coming home in second. The number 49 machine of Mitchell Adams, JT Poole in third, and it was on from there on the backstretch. We'll go back and see if we can get another look at exactly what happened back there. Here we go, high atop the blimp. Watch what happened here, Drew. I think it all started around the 22 and the 27. There was contact between the two, and it was on from there, pretty much from third on back, every truck involved.
Exactly. I just don't think there was quite enough room to make it 3 wide there, but it's the last lap. Nobody's going to back out. And unfortunately, for a lot of other guys that weren't involved in that decision-making process, they get caught up in it, and it essentially leaves those top 3 trucks to fight it out amongst themselves.
Yeah, we went on board there with the driver of the number 30 machine, Joshua Sobel, and he did a fantastic job of getting through that accident. We'll get one more look here of it from high atop. We'll put this one in slow motion. So look at Snare there in the 43 machine getting thrown up into the wall. Look at the 5 machine of Adams, nowhere for him to go. And just like that, the track was blocked. Watch that number 30 machine there, Drew, just barely squeaking through, putting it on the brakes. He'll be credited with a 4th place finish in this one.
Absolutely. I mean, I think on the onboard, you almost didn't really appreciate that there was only one path to get through that wreck, and the 30 was the only one to take it. That was a really good job of him by not over slowing down to where the guys behind you are just going to run over you, but slowing down enough to where he had the ability to make some small maneuvers to get himself through essentially what took everyone else out around him.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see if we can possibly capture some of the replay of that number 62 machine as he burned it down here on the front stretch. There he is, doing a little bit of celebratory donuts here tonight. Of course, next week, the Simbox 250 here on 3Y TV is going to be the real deal. It is going to be the opening round of the 2020-2021 Simbox Truck Series here for the National Sim Racing Association. Make sure you join us here on 3Y TV. Huge shout out to some of the people that we still have in the chat. Jerry Ramirez saying, my boy Sobel survived that wreck. Yes, he did. Fantastically well. And Sobel saying that wreck avoidance, though. Yeah, that wreck avoidance. Let's see if we can possibly dial up some possible interviews with some of the top finishers here tonight in this one. I know it was a long one here tonight, Drew, as the number 62 continues to burn it down here on the front stretch. But let's see if we can get JT Poole down here. Why don't you take it away there, Drew, with JT Poole?
Absolutely, JT. We saw a heck of a performance by you tonight. You were ultra quick in your duel, but unfortunately didn't quite get the result that you were looking for. But you had a chance at the end in this fun race. Tell me, what was going through your mind on that last lap?
Yeah, I had my teammate behind me, Mitchell Snager, was pushing me. And heading into one, we had a great run and side drafting, doing everything I can to get to the front. And out of 2, Colin just threw an incredible block and stacked up the field a little bit. Kind of checked up some people behind, spun a couple guys, but it was a great move by him. It kind of kept him that lead. Great race to him. He did a great job leading the front. It was super fun racing these guys. It was a really fun race. Can't wait to do it next week for 250 miles.
Absolutely. And we were talking earlier during the broadcast about people's possible approaches to this fun races as a practice for the 250 or just going out there and having fun and mixing it up. What was your approach to this fun race tonight?
My main was trying to treat it like it was the last 5 laps every lap, just for the 250, just in case I'm in a situation where I need to make a move. Doing a lot of side drafting, see if that works, and it definitely did. You can definitely feel the side draft a lot more than you could in the older builds of the Truck Series. Then I had a teammate who unfortunately couldn't make it, and then I had Mitchell Snare. He was a teammate, so we were just trying to work together, see how much we could push, how hard we could push each other, so we can go into next week at Daytona knowing our limits.
Absolutely. Great run tonight, JT. Hopefully you can do 2 positions better next Friday night. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank Simbox, Pascual Racing Equipment, Blue Ridge. I want to thank my teammates, Hayes Booth, John Canizero, and Mitchell Snare, and my parents. Can't forget
Absolutely,
my parents.
JT. Well, congratulations on your finish tonight. Hopefully you can do a little bit better next Friday. And thanks for talking with us.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Well, that is your third place finisher here in this a little bit of a fun race. Let's see if we can dial up Mitchell Adams. Mitchell, Peter Short here in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'll tell you what, that number 49 machine just came up a little bit short here in this fun race, but all in all, pretty good run for that number 49 machine. Tell us about your night.
Yeah, we had a good night. We've kind of, in the heats earlier in the night, just kind of struggled to get up to the front, but finished it out. And then we came into this one just looking to have a fun race here. And definitely second place finish, I'll definitely take. I wasn't sure because we got stuck in the middle of the pack a lot during the middle of it. But toward the end there, we found our way to the front, and it was smooth sailing from there for the most part.
Yeah, and how much momentum does this give you into next week's Simbox 250? I mean, did you learn a lot here tonight in both your duel and this fun race?
Oh yeah, for sure. I love restrictor plate racing, so this is a type of racing I love to do, and definitely when you have good runs like we had tonight, definitely helps to build momentum and confidence going into the points race.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to next week's Simbox 250. You got any shout-outs for us before we let you go?
Just shout out to Adams Racing, Indy Auto Sport, and the Gazebo Girls are my sponsors. And just thank you to you guys for broadcasting. It looked really good, and everybody who's watching.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us here, and good luck next week in the Simbox 250. All right, and I believe Drew Eisenman has caught up with the winner of the fun race. That's Colin Ullery. Drew?
Absolutely, Colin. Congratulations on this fun race win tonight. We saw you had a lot of speed in your duel, but weren't able to quite, get that race finished like you ran for the vast majority of it. But you were able to do that in the feature race. What do you think was the difference between those two finishes?
My fuel, I only had about 1.5 gallons left, and I didn't think I was going to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw fuel mileage come into play in other races. What did you learn from tonight in both the duel and in this fun race that you can apply to the Simbox 250 next Friday night?
There's a lot of people that'll help you, and just be careful around people because there was a lot of cautions today.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on this fun race win, Colin, and good luck in your upcoming races. Is there anybody that you would like to give a shout out to?
You guys for putting on the broadcast and all the sponsors, and Mitchell Adams because he pushed me the last 10 laps.
All right, Colin. Well, thanks for talking with us, and congratulations on your win tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Drew, that just about wraps up. The only thing we're going to do real fast is, of course, go through the finishing results. There you see Colin Ullery taking home the win. Mitchell Adams side by side right at the line. Couldn't quite pull it off in that number 49 machine. JT Poole coming home in third in the fun race. Joshua Sobel coming in fourth after that great last lap avoidance. And then a bunch of drivers who weren't so lucky on that last lap, including Ben Adams, Trevor Shaw, Stan Hausman, Bill Edwards, Mitchell Snare, and, of course, Owen Bridges, who was the first truck one lap down. In 11th position, Aaron Mack. Matt Vanderkoy comes home in 12th. Travis White, 13th. Justin White, 14th. A couple of the Whites together, 13th and 14th. Robert Clavey in the 15th position. Roger Muth, 16th. Jordan Scheffler, 17th. Andrew Himmelman comes home 18th. Jeff Price, John Canizaro rounds out your top 20. And then a couple of the other drivers who started the race but left pretty early. Paul Bilson, Chris Darling, Ron Gaivo, Chip Hansen, and Michael Mooney. 26 on back were drivers who qualified and raced in the duels earlier, the Lynchburg Duels, but they did not start the fun race. But Drew, that's about going to wrap it up here tonight. Any thoughts going into next week's Simbox 250?
It's going to be interesting to see what this race, the Simbox 250, more mirrors. With the bigger fields in this fun race, a little more chaos. The duel's a little more subdued. We're going to have plenty of trucks in that Simbox 250. Are these drivers going to be able to keep it under control when there's 40 trucks out there? We will find out next Friday night.
Absolutely. But for myself, Peter Short, Drew Eisenman, and everyone else here, we want to give a big shout out to our friends over at SimTV for the camera angles. But next week, make sure you tune in here on 3Y TV for the Simbox 250. We are very much looking forward to it, and we'll see you then.
Thanks
Good
for
night.
tuning in, everybody.